Roman is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French Toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Sasanti. If you're wondering where I've been, you can direct all of your complaints to Commissioner Rob Manfred at the MLB offices. But I am back. I'm glad to be back. And we are back here once again to review tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. We are on our first episode, obviously, since Wrestle Dream on Saturday, which I just finished like 2 hours before the Dynamite started. It was good. But we open up with the obvious spot, which is our new big bad in AEW, one Jon Moxley. I did have a little trouble booting this up on TBS, so I did miss a couple of lines in the beginning, so forgive me if I left anything important out. James, you can hop in and help you there. But he was in the back of the pickup truck with, I assume, the rest of what we appear to still be calling the Blackpool Combat Club, following his assault, obviously, on Bryan Danielson on Saturday, following his victory over him in the main event. Mox questioned everybody's need to know the new paradigm, saying that they all need to stay out of the way and that they all work for him now, which became a recurring theme throughout the show. You know what's going on. We've been chopping it up with you before the show even started. Glad to see you're here, as always. And hopefully we get some more of our usual suspects in the chat as we move on. James, before I jump into the start of the in-ring stuff, did I miss anything that Moxley said that stood out as important to you?
No, you got the gist of it. He does not like what AEW has become in his eyes. In his words, it's the dancing and the partying and the laughing. It's not about that. It's not about that. And this feels very meta in a way. Like, obviously, this feels like, all right, Jon Moxley, the character, is saying he doesn't like what he's seeing in the locker room. He doesn't like what he's seeing from these kids, and that somebody should step up. This kid, Orange Cassidy, who's 2 years older than Mox, you know, that kid, he doesn't like seeing it, and he wants somebody to step up. So very clearly, we see that the direction of things with AEW aren't really where we want them to be, and we're trying to reboot a little bit. And I like that. I do like that. Don't get me wrong. I've very much been enjoying AEW storytelling basically since day one. There have been some missteps here or there, but that's normal for anybody. But I can appreciate the fact that there are certain issues that need to be addressed. And I can appreciate the fact that the product hasn't been the same for some people. So if this is their way of sort of doing a brand reset, I'm all for it. It's funny because Producer Boy, who's with us in spirit and in voice, I'm sure in a second, he said something in the chat, in our private Mark It Down chat. You guys should be there. Honestly, you would love it. That this guy is Thanos. Jon Moxley is Thanos. And the reality is, and I've been saying this to people, and I've been talking about it since Saturday. Everybody got fooled into thinking that WrestleMania 40 was Avengers Endgame. That's not the case. We're building towards Avengers Endgame right now. We're getting the tidal wave of good guys going against Jon Moxley's Thanos and his army. And I'm so excited for it. I think there are going to be some twists and turns because right out the gate, the first person to sort of make a shot at going for the crown was Jay White. Let's see how that's going to go. Hi, Chris baby. How you doing?
Welcome to the pod.
Hope you're enjoying it. FM. I thought the show was pretty good tonight. jerks on JDS channel, of course, are saying Raw was better, show was trash, but they said Shelton was the best part. Loved seeing Shelton.
Shelton was great tonight.
Raw was all right from what I saw. Raw was all right. I think the highlight of that show was the backstage stuff between Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso.
Which is funny because it was like 30 seconds total, but
I think that kind of just made my opinion clear on which episode of TV I enjoyed more this week. But we'll get into that.
if it's Thanos, half the wrestlers would be fired. Live from the other.
That was good. That was good. But yeah, good first segment. Good way to sort of prologue the show with an epilogue of the show from Saturday.
I agree. Producer boy, you're obviously in here for a reason. Is there something you would like to say, or did you click something by accident?
No, I mean, I was just going to say this is their version of the whole McMahon family coming out and apologizing for the show being trashed, but the show hasn't really been trashed. So I guess just, it's just what James said. It's a version of a reboot. I guess, and I guess there's really no mystery for the reason that the title is in the briefcase. I think it's just a way of saying it's not about the title. It's more about bettering the company.
It could also be a good way of actually introducing a new AEW World Championship down the line.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a definite, but I could see that being a good segue.
Do we need to, though? That title is good.
I think it's the most beautiful championship in wrestling right now.
Why risk it?
I agree. But I could see that. I mean, we're 5 years in now. I could see them wanting to, but I wouldn't want them to.
Yeah. I think my only issue is something that we discussed in the chat. It's such a big storyline, and I guess it doesn't have to last 14 years, but to end at World's End, it seems kind of, we're giving them too much credit if we think that we're going to have a star in the next 3 months. I mean, I know obviously we have like Darby and all these young guys that are technically stars, but enough to move the company forward.
I think the problem is there is no magical Cody Rhodes that's going to come in.
Right. I guess you could say the same. Like, what would WWE have done had Cody not shown up? We know he's carrying a different belt nowadays, but certain people's champion would have absolutely been the guy. Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Well,
but unless we get him coming over, I don't think so. But
Stone Cold in AEW?
From your lips.
Not a chance.
From your lips. Well, who would the third one be? Rock, Austin,
Hogan.
No.
Book it, baby. Book it. But yeah, good way to start the show. Set the tone for the show.
Yeah, and I really like what you said. It was both the epilogue to Saturday and the prologue to tonight. So
yes.
I agree with you. It's a great way to start the show. As we headed into the ring, we started off that portion of the evening with Parshin spent too much time in Ireland. With Adam Cole coming down for an in-ring promo. Obviously, Cole came back on Saturday, and these heel-face dynamics have been incredibly flipped since the last time we really saw him. Obviously, we saw him with the Devil storyline and the Undisputed Kingdom, and then he went away just because his ankle, and they really trying to get it rehabbed. He came back briefly. MJF was still right off of coming back and still face, so hit him with the Brainbuster. And then Adam Cole went away again. But now we have this, once again, incredibly heel MJF and seemingly a face Adam Cole, who made the save for Daniel Garcia on Saturday. So Cole comes out and
go ahead,
James.
No. It's more of a question, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But please continue. I need you to continue before I can go ahead.
Okay, so he comes out, Cole does, and he begins by addressing Roddy, Taven, and Bennett of the Undisputed Kingdom, saying that he had spoken to them privately, and what he said was that he needs to do this on his own. He then turns his attention to MJF, saying that there's a lot of gray in this business, and sometimes you need to fight evil with evil. He says that the MJF we see now is the one he used to see behind closed doors, the one who's been terrorizing AEW for the last 5 years. Cole goes on to say that everything about Max is fake, from his hair that's taken 2 surgeries to stay on his head, which is now the second reference to Max going to Turkey, to his brash attitude that falls apart the second you talk shit about him online, and then he goes and cries in his hotel room. Cole then brings up the fact that they have the best locker room in the world, and it makes him sick that the young guys would look up to MJF when his path only leads to one of loneliness. He says that everyone in the back is agreeing with him right now because they all hate him, and that Cole hates him the most. He hates MJF in his totality, his voice, and just everything about him. Cole then calls him out to come down to the ring so that they can settle their differences right now, but MJF's music hits, and he doesn't come out. Instead, Max appears up on the Tron, swirling around a glass of wine as he is sitting comfortably in a lounger chair, saying he's learned a lot being in this business since a teenager, with the number one thing being that there's a lot of jackals in this business, leading him to never trust anybody. But Cole lied his way into getting MJF's trust, making Max into the man he is today when Cole betrayed him and left a void in his life. MJF knows that Cole wants to beat him within an inch of his life, but Max won't allow that to ever happen, and Cole will die with a similar void in his life, a void being left by the fact that he was never able to get his revenge on MJF. Cole then responds, saying he knows MJF can hear him, and he reminds Max that he knows MJF better than anyone, so MJF can run, but he can't hide, and when Cole catches him, he is going to give him the beating of a lifetime. So, James, this was very interesting. I know Meltzer commented today about how, I think it was Meltz, how they flipped the heel-face dynamic just because of the way everything happened. I can understand it. Obviously, like I said, MJF has been very heel recently against Daniel Garcia, whereas Cole is making a return and people do want to cheer him. So it does kind of make sense. I thought they did a decent job of starting to address the fact that Cole was the one to turn on Max, especially with the whole devil thing, although hopefully we can ignore that as much as possible.
No, don't be that guy. The devil thing wasn't a bad thing.
The devil thing wasn't bad,
Saturday.
But the reveal was shite.
Yeah, the aftermath, yes, was bad.
Yes, but I thought this was a good start to all of this and easing us back into the idea that, okay, Cole is going to be the face here.
Adam Cole's a gaslighter, isn't he?
Little bit. They can both be wrong. I'm totally okay with them both being wrong.
That's my thing. If this doesn't end with them realizing, you know what, we both kind of suck, let's be friends again, I'm going to be disappointed. But I guess that's just coming from someone who really loved the bro chachas for life.
Yeah. No, they were great together. They really were.
But, like, look, I can accept alignment changes even if they don't make sense. Like, one of the best storylines in professional wrestling in the last several years, especially this year, was Swerve and Hangman. The alignment changing just happened, and the fans... and the fans just sort of willed that change to happen. Fans started cheering for Swerve, started booing Hangman, and the story found a way to make that work. Obviously, this wasn't as seamless. Obviously, there were a lot of complications with this story, but I am glad it's being addressed. I am glad that on some level we're acknowledging the story.
Thanks. Just completely distracted.
Why? I need you to know I am not with him on this. I'm not
looking. I'm not looking.
I'm rooting for you.
My phone is on mute and in my pocket, and I am ignoring it. Taki season. Go Rangers. Anyway, I'll be there tomorrow.
Oh, he was genuinely being nice, he said. Look, so I appreciate what they're trying to do. I can just accept things for a certain way, but I also don't want to be lied to too much either. Or I don't want to be fed a line of bullshit either and, expect to enjoy it. We got here the way we got here. Let's not get too deep into the story as to why the alignments have changed. If this is just a blood feud between two guys and both of them act like assholes fighting each other in the process, I can accept how we got where we are now.
Just did that, worked out great.
Exactly. And it does remind me a little bit about on the WWE side of things, sort of the Judgment Day arc, the story there with Damian and Finn and Rhea and Liv, that realistically, those two characters are sort of reaping what they sowed in the first place. Rhea tormented Liv, and now Liv's getting her revenge, but she became the villain in the process. And Priest kind of screwed Finn a couple of times, and now he's paying for it.
Not to mention, they were all beating the shit out of Finn to begin with, and then Finn ended up joining. Granted, they had to find a reason to throw Edge out, but
yeah. But I'm all in on this. I'm just so happy he's back. It's insane to me that he hasn't wrestled in over a year. But I'm so glad that he's back. I'm so glad that he's hot with the crowd, because that was something that I was a little worried with, because Cole goes through these spurts with the fans where people get tired of him, and I'm hoping for the best for him. I have an ideal world. I have an ideal situation or scenario as it pertains to the world title. I wanted to go to Darby. I then wanted to go to the Hangman. I then wanted to go to Cole. I then wanted to go to Jay White, and then I wanted to go. No, I'm sorry. Flip that. I wanted to go Jay White, Hangman, Adam Cole. I don't know. This just ends with Kenny Omega winning the title, as far as I'm concerned.
You're skipping something major here, though. Christian still has that title shot.
Fuck him.
So he's getting that at some point. He's getting the title somewhere.
He could lose. You don't know.
True, but it'd be kind of dumb. I think it'd be kind of dumb. It would make him look stupid.
All right, so let's do it then. Darby, then...
It'd be funny if Christian immediately cashed in on Darby.
Yeah.
Darby, that's good.
Darby, then Hangman, then Jay White, Christian, Adam Cole, and again, we'll fit Kenny in somewhere. But all right, keep going.
Yeah, I wanted to agree with you on a couple of points. One, I agree with you on the fact that Cole has spurts with the crowd. They usually tend to coincide when he comes back from something.
Yeah.
And I love Adam Cole. He does tend to be a little bit of a one-trick pony.
He's been the same character for the last 8 years.
Yeah, he's been the same character since he joined Bullet Club, and probably before that. It feels like longer than 8.
The problem is, and I agree with you entirely, Adam Cole, the character, works. The way we have this character works. It should be a world championship character. The problem is it hasn't happened yet anywhere. Yeah, he became the Ring of Honor champion. That was great, but we know where Ring of Honor was at that time. He became the NXT champion, and that was great. And that was when NXT was arguably at its hottest. But again, it was still NXT. We've been waiting for Adam Cole to become a true blue world champion somewhere. And that just still hasn't happened. And it feels like a waste for that character to not get there.
Yeah.
But I agree. He is the same guy.
Yeah, and that can fit fun into certain storylines, but he needs a little bit of an evolution. He needs to change something up, because he's still just boom, Adam Cole baby, who's ready for story time.
It's still fun.
I know those things can stay, but you got to add something new. You got to do something different. And now he's back to face Adam Cole, who I feel like there really isn't a difference. Even if you look at somebody, I know this is a wild example, but if you look at somebody who uses a lot of catchphrases a la The Rock still says all his shit, but he always changed it up somewhat. So the thing with Cole is, whether he's a face or a heel, whatever he's doing, he almost always does the same thing. Yeah. I think the closest we got recently was during this Undisputed Kingdom thing, where he was back telling actual stories, sitting down in the Barker Lounger and reading from a book, and that was cool. And so I think you had mentioned he had done that previously, but it's something he hadn't done in a long time, and it was very new and interesting to me. And instead, we're just kind of back to square one again with him. It's weird. I still love him, but I do think that's why he does have that limited lifespan on the crowd really, really loving him. I wanted to go back up in the comments to it's saying, I don't get Adam Cole's deal. Why he wants revenge? He's the one who betrayed MJF. And I think this is going to come down to something where Cole is going to be like, I broke my ankle for him, this scumbag. And so I turned on him because I needed to, I realized I was fighting for this absolute piece of shit. And I've cost myself a long time. And I try to fight evil with evil, and it backfired.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And now and he mentioned at the top of the promo, he's like, I was sitting at home alone, realizing I couldn't do it that way. So I think that could be something that they go with, but you need a reason for him turning on MJF in the first place, and then you need a reason for him also being back where he is now, alignment wise. And they gave the second one; they need to give me the first one. So I think that would be my thing. Producer boy saying that he doesn't know how Christian benefits his company at all. They're just going to get crapped on for having an old champ, and then you have the inevitable Copeland versus Christian for the title match.
So this is what I'm going to say.
Got a small points thing.
No, I mean, look, a lot of people said the same thing, and I know Eric is immediately going to disagree. But he was one of the people in the beginning. He was one of the people in the beginning, too. He did not see any benefit to Samoa Joe being the AEW champion. Before Joe won the title, he was vehemently against it. He did not see the value in Joe winning the title. And then when he did, Joe proved to be one of the most important champions I think AEW has had. Because he was there at a very crucial time in rebuilding, and he was there for a very crucial time to at least begin the path of setting things straight again for AEW. So, do I need Christian Cage to have a 5-month title reign? No. Is it cool that Christian Cage is a shitty guy who uses money in the bank to win the world title for a month? That's fine. When Edge cashed in his first Money in the Bank against Cena, he held the belt for 3 fucking weeks. It's more about the precedent that it sets.
Right,
So,
but I think my issue is I don't mind the Christian thing happening for that moment, but then how do you follow up with it, for one? And then two, how many champions have we had this year alone? We're up to 3 champions. If this storyline with Mox ends at World's End, that's 4 champions. And then assuming that it's Darby, he immediately loses. Like, if we're going with the idea that Christian cashes in right away. If Christian cashes in at World's End, that's 5 champions in 1 year. And then he's going to have a short reign, which probably ends before All In because he's not going to main event the show. So now you have 6 world champions in less than a year and a half. I just think that's a little too much. Too hot potato for me. I mean, obviously, if it's entertaining, it's entertaining. But I don't see how. I mean, you can make it entertaining. I don't know how you do that without using all of your best matches, and you're just I don't know how to say it. You're blowing your load, I guess.
To an extent, I get what you're saying, and to me, it's a matter of preference. If I like long title reigns when they're fresh, when they're exciting, and when they make the most of it. But I also don't mind hot potatoes every once in a while. Like, I grew up in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, and that belt was changing hands every 2 months. The Rock's first 6 title reigns equate to 200 something days.
Yeah, his shit was short.
So, but I don't think any less of The Rock at that point, Mick Foley only became a WWE champion because he was able to hold it for 3 weeks at a time on a couple of occasions. So I think what you said is the important part of this. If it's done in an entertaining way, I can accept anything. I can accept a title change that's quick. Like if Christian cashes in on Darby, revenge for sleeping with Britt. We don't know. Although I would pay good money. I would pay the best money in the world if MJF brings out Britt Baker.
Was
I
not sure
would
where you were
die.
going with that.
I would die if he brought out Britt Baker. But I think if you have Christian cash in on Darby, and then a month or two later, Darby's the one who takes the title back from Christian as his revenge, I'm fine with that. I don't think it's too bad in that instance. So time will tell, but it's something to be careful of, but it's not something that should necessarily discourage anybody from booking in a certain way.
Yeah, and I think I have enough faith in Tony Khan of recently to be able to figure this out in a smart way. And
I'll also go out on a limb and say I don't think Tony's really messed up with the world title picture. Like, other than the Punk Moxley debacle,
yeah,
I don't think there's really been a situation where I'm like, what the fuck are they doing with the world title? This sucks.
I think the second worst thing they've probably done is, I mean, I don't think it was that bad, but the MJF Jay White stuff wasn't great. And if that's the second worst thing you've done, I think you've done a pretty good job with the world title.
I agree.
It just wasn't great compared to the rest of the history of the world title. So, yeah, I agree. Outside of Punk not knowing fucking Rocky 3, it's been pretty damn good.
Stupid son of a bitch.
I still can't believe you've never seen it. How do you not see Rocky 3? How do you at least not go look it up before just being like, no, I'm not doing that? Like, come on. Fucking stubborn asshole. All right. Well,
How? All
right. We spent quite a little.
This comment.
Oh, sorry.
It was definitely Joe winning as second or third. Maybe not in hindsight, but yeah. No, absolutely not. You can't say in hindsight it wasn't a bad idea, but it was second or no. Get out of here.
It's a great idea. All right. As I said, we spent a lot of time on this, and we will obviously be talking about it for weeks to come. So let's move on to our next segment, which actually was a backstage interview with Chris Jericho from Saturday after his loss to Mark Briscoe. So Renee asked Jericho about his loss, and he actually says that he's vindicated. And when Renee asks why, Jericho says that alongside starring in the biggest movie in the world, I didn't even hear what the title is.
Terrifier 3. You're not a horror guy.
Yeah, okay. Is he a background character, or is he actually?
He has like, I think he has like a cameo, but like he's in an entertaining scene.
Okay. And then he mentioned Fozzy selling out shows all the time. He was also correct in the fact that he knew Mark Briscoe was going to cheat to retain his title, and he obviously feels vindicated over that. So because Briscoe, quote unquote, cheated to win the title, Jericho demanded a rematch so that he could become a 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion, just like Jay Briscoe. We then cut. Okay.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant because this motherfucker isn't saying a single bad word about Jay. He's only been respectful, but it's pissing us all off that he's even saying his name.
It's not that he's saying his name; it's how he's saying his name. And
again, it's very respectfully. Wow,
yes.
Look at Jay Briscoe, that 2-time ROH champion. Jay beating me with the Jay Driller makes sense. I don't know about Mark though. It's brilliant. He's a fucking asshole.
You know, you all are like, get Jericho off my screen.
No.
Good.
I've been half and
you.
half. There are times that it's frustrating, but for the most part, I've been in.
Yes. Took me a while to come around the learning tree, but I did see the brilliance. Anyway, after that pre-recorded interview, we went then quickly to Mark Briscoe backstage for a response. And he says that Jericho says a lot of dumb stuff, and normally he can let it go in one ear and out the other. But what Mark can't let go is when Jericho brings up his brother. So he accepts Jericho's challenge for the rematch, saying he wants to get his hands on Jericho once again. However, in this case, you're going to have to up the violence. So Mark lays out Ladder Wars for the title next week on Dynamite, which is later made official by one Tony Khan. But tonight, he's going to watch the ass whipping that FTR will dole out to Big Bill and the Bad Apple, Bryan Keith. And FTR then joins Briscoe, and they hype each other up, and they all start screaming into the camera and then run off. But James, Ladder war.
That is a term I haven't heard in a long time. Long time.
It got a serious pop out of me.
Oh, dude, I've been to one ladder war, and it was Kevin Steen versus El Generico.
Oh man.
And it's a thing to watch, man. It's a thing to experience. I am now terrified though that Jericho is going to win. Terrified. I
don't think they have Briscoe lose in a ladder war.
I think that's how you do it because Mark won't get pinned. You protect him.
True, but that's like one of his things, right? I mean,
he's been in He's been in a couple,
his thing, but yeah, he's been in them. Jericho's never been in one.
All right, that's like saying Edge versus John Cena in TLC. Of course, Edge is gonna beat John Cena in TLC. Didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Fair.
But I'm scared. I really don't want Jericho to win the ROH title, and I know the ROH title doesn't carry much weight, but I just don't need to see him win that title. I don't need to hear him call himself the Nueve.
Yeah, he won it the one time, and I think it worked well. Obviously, they were trying to get another TV deal at the time, so it kind of helped out. He was especially trying to get Ring of Honor. Tony was trying to get Ring of Honor on TV. That ended up not working out, but c'est la vie. But I thought Jericho's reign was good enough, and Ocho sounds way better than Nueve.
It really does. It really does. If you're going to become a 9-time champion, don't do it with the ROH title. Not that I want him to win the AEW World title again, but come on.
Yeah, there's better ways to do it. And even then, just the Ocho sounds so good. And it's probably because of dodgeball. But
no, that's 100% why. But yes.
Just don't do it.
You're not wrong.
Anyway, this Briscoe backstage interview obviously led into our next match, which saw FTR face off against Big Bill and the Bad Apple Brian Keith. He's still bounty hunter to me. I will jump towards the end of the match here, where after a diamond dust from Keith and a big boot from Big Bill, Keith went in for the pin on Dax, but Cash came flying out of nowhere to break that up. Cash then dragged Bill out of the ring, where he was able to avoid the ring post and send Bill into it before hitting him with a tornado DDT. Cash then jumped back up onto the apron. Shout out Fuego, by the way. Yeah, thank you for that. We met him at House of Glory a few weeks ago. Really nice guy. Anyway, Cash jumped back up onto the aprons in an attempt to get the tag from Dax, but this distracted Brian Keith, and Keith went over to take a swipe at Cash that Cash was able to duck. Dax then was able to force Keith into the corner and get the tag, and then both members of FTR attempted drop downs and then did leapfrogs as Keith hit the ropes. And as Keith came back around for his second pass, FTR was able to hit the Shatter Machine and pin Keith 1-2-3 for the win. After the match, we saw that LFI was watching the match backstage on TV, and then some music hit, and my boys, the Outrunners, came out and they came down for the Predator handshake, and then they got Dax to do some poses a la a certain person who's a piece of shit, as we then went into our next segment. But James, I thought this match was a great showing for Big Bill. He looked phenomenal in this match. I know I just put that in the chat too. He looked great. I thought they protected him very well, but he was tossing around both members of FTR like they were nothing, and not just tossing them around either. Like, he was hitting some legitimately good big man moves on them. They had Bill hit a boss man slam at one point that looked really good. They had big boot for the false finish after the Diamond Dust, which I didn't know that was called. Great name. That was great as well. So, and while Keith and FTR obviously did a good job and played their roles perfectly, I thought Bill was a standout guy in this match.
I have been singing Bill's praises since Impact, since TNA. W. Morrissey, I see that there is so much they can do with this guy, both as a singles and obviously as a tag. Yep, you know it. You're right. And Chris, it was really good. I have so much faith in this guy, and he seems to really want it. He seems to have really turned things around in his private life, and I am generally entertained by him. More often than not, I am entertained. So I'm rooting for this because it does feel like we've talked about it a couple times. The seeds might be planted a little bit that he's going to be splitting up from Jericho sooner than later. Sooner than later. Maybe not immediately, but sooner than later.
Grow into his own tree from those seeds.
And I'm for it. I think he could absolutely carry a mid-card title. I absolutely think he could carry a mid-card title. The only thing that is at all appealing to me about Jericho winning the ROH title from Mark is the concept of Bill, the prospect of Bill taking it off Jericho. But
yeah, because I think we mentioned this maybe a couple weeks ago, last time I was on, when they were sowing the seeds, and I said I think Bill should end up being the next Ring of Honor World Champion.
Yep. And I think you hit it. I think you hit it on the head.
Yeah, but I think the way I posed it was Jericho goes to the title and fails, and obviously we had that. Now he's getting the rematch, so we'll see what happens. But I think hopefully he fails again, but then Bill's the one to take it off of Briscoe, and then that leads to the split between Jericho and Bill. I think that would be a lot better. So we'll see what happens. And I'd be very, very excited for Bill to hold that title.
Yeah. And we're dealing with the thing that we get a lot from Chris, feuds not necessarily going the normal path structurally.
Yeah.
Like, Mark's already beaten him. Why are we doing this again? It doesn't really make sense. Even commentary said, you don't usually see the challenger finding a way to get another title shot from the champion. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's Jericho, so of course he's going to.
And he talks shit about Mark's brother. Very easy to do, apparently.
But by not doing it, you're doing it.
Yep.
By not talking shit, he's committing the ultimate sin, apparently.
I didn't say he was talking shit. I just said he talked about him. Big difference.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But when is that match happening? In 2 weeks or next week?
Next week. I believe they said next week on Dynamite.
Yowie, wowie. Oh, man. Eric's going to be so happy. The ROH title is going to main event a show. Oh, I love it. But, all right. Let's move on. Unless you have something you want to add.
I mean, all I know is that would upset producer boy so much he left.
Wow.
Nah, he probably either disconnected or has somewhere else to be. But yeah, I thought this, like I said, I thought this was a good match, and I'm very excited for what happens with Bill in the near future, especially that he's back. Especially that they are featuring him so prominently and making him look so good. I think he's got big things ahead of him. No pun intended. After this, we went backstage for an interview with the Acclaimed after their win against MXM at Wrestle Dream. Renee asks, "What's next for them?" Daddy S says, "What's next for them is to hit the gym because they have some of the best bodies in AEW." That is a quote, and they got to keep them on point. So he takes off so he can go bring the car around for the boys, and they can hop in. Bowens and Caster then just kind of hit their usual shtick, but everyone loves the Acclaimed. And Caster says what they want is more and more and more and more. And as he's saying this, MVP and Shelton Benjamin come up and interrupt them.
We're going to do this every time, aren't we?
At least the first time I introduced Shelton in the show. Anyway, MVP says that if the Acclaimed want to get serious, they should give him a call, and he hands his business card over to Max. Max takes the card and quietly puts it in his pocket while Bowen says they don't need anything from him. And MVP just laughs it off and leaves with Shelton. Now, obviously, James, there's been a little bit of, let's say, internet drama with Max saying we don't want you towards Shelton a while back. But we did see Max quietly take the card and put it in his pocket. And it seemed like that was something Caster noticed. That Bowens noticed. So, little interesting thing there. I don't think it was intentional. I personally can't see Caster joining up with him just because of what he said. But
so here's the thing.
Never in wrestling.
Caster says that about every signing. Every time a WWE guy is released, Twitter is like, they should go to AEW. Caster has gone on and said, we don't need him. We don't want him. Blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't a personal thing against Shelton. He was just
No,
the
it's a
latest
bit.
one that happened. Yeah, it's a bit. It's absolutely a. I mean,
Yeah,
he
he's the
has
best wrestler
explained
alive.
he has explained it too in interviews that it's like, look, it's nothing against any of these guys when I say it, but it's also we have an incredible roster, and every time somebody comes in, that means it's just somebody else who's losing a spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I get where he's coming from in that. I think the seeds were planted tonight for two teams to potentially break up. And I think at least one of them, there's a chance that it'll happen. I don't necessarily want the Acclaim to break up, but they do need to freshen things up a little bit because they're not getting like people still love the Acclaimed. Everybody still loves the. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, we were agreeing.
Everybody still loves the Acclaimed, but they're not the hot act that they once were. And that makes sense. But they've gone for the tag titles at this point on a couple of occasions. They've done the trios route with Daddy Ass. There needs to be something. And you can't break a pair of scissors without getting cut. That hit deep. That hit deep, you know it.
I feel like I could. I feel like I have. But but that was a good
It's
line.
being poetic.
I'll give him the license.
Eric has a good comment here. It's either on the nose and Caster is joining, or Bowens is. I think it's Bowens. I think both men are great on the mic, but I think Caster has that Jeff Hardy energy of being like able to do anything on his own, that he's just going to get the crowd on him. I think Bowens needs that little extra love and attention. He needs that Matt Hardy attention. I don't know. I feel like heel Caster is something we haven't gotten in a long time, and it'd be kind of exciting to see again. Add a little more edge back to him, but we'll see. I'm more concerned about who's getting Daddy Ass in the divorce. But I also do want to note, I was so like, what the fuck? Why is he leaving to get the car? Like, they didn't have enough money to keep Billy on TV an extra minute when that first started. But then I loved it by the end. It's like, so he couldn't see the card.
Yeah.
So he wasn't there for that. But in the beginning, I was like, this is so silly. There's no reason for him to be leaving this promo. But well done. Well done.
Yeah. You know it's saying, can you do the scissors with one finger? I think that's called a knife. And Eric saying that heel Caster rapping in a group seems silly.
Yeah, because heel Cena rapping was awful.
Yeah, and so is heel Caster. But
yeah, I was gonna say.
It's weird though. He hasn't rapped in a while. I feel like he keeps getting cut off, or
no, he did it at the pay-per-view. He did it at the pay-per-view.
Okay, I didn't watch the pre-show, so
yeah. Oh, they were on the pre-show, weren't they?
Yeah, they faced MXM.
Yeah, yeah, but no, he got one out. He got one out. He made a Diddy reference.
Oh, did he?
Damn it!
Not surprised he did. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. MVP has been all over the place handing out business cards. So a lot of this could be just red herrings and nobody joins, but we will see what happens. Eric making the point that he meant in a group with like 5 other people rapping, which I guess kind of makes sense. But
everybody needs a hype man. Every group needs a hype man.
Yeah. At the same time, did you not see the Eminem tour with D12? Like, it's 6 of them on the stage, and Dre and Snoop and Fitty and Obi Trice and Exhibit and occasionally Nate Dogg, depending on the song. Like, watch a rap concert one time. All right. Moving on from that, we went to the ring for our next contest, which saw Mercedes Moné face off against Queen Aminata for the TES Championship. This came about on Saturday. I think it was on the pre-show when Mercedes came in and she was looking for a dressing room and started berating an employee, and Queen Aminata stepped in to stand up for them, and they got into it with Mercedes saying, I don't even know who the hell you are. And so then Tony Khan made this match. It was fine. I'll jump to the end where after countering a charging Aminata in the corner, Mercedes climbed to the second rope and hit a Meteora. She then quickly followed it up with a backsaber into the statement maker, and then she forced Aminata to tap out. So dude, I thought this was a good showing from Aminata. I hadn't really seen too much of her outside, I think, of a tag match recently. Was that her who was beefing with Deeb, I think?
Yeah. She came to the defense of Sky Blue against Mariah May.
Right. Yeah, she's been around.
She's been doing a lot of Ring of Honor work, and now she's definitely appearing more in AEW.
Yeah, I think she was on Collision a bit as well, but definitely appearing more on Dynamite recently. So she was pretty good, but the rest of the match, it was just another Mercedes Moné match, and that actually kind of brings me something I saw the other day, which were comments from JR saying that Mercedes hasn't really been connecting with him, and he thinks the audience as well. And I saw a lot of comments in that thread on Reddit saying that she just still feels too WWE, and she hasn't really fit in to the, I guess, AEW mold yet. So I was wondering your opinions, obviously on the match, but also about Mercedes and her connecting with the crowd as well.
I think it's a complicated issue because I would agree to some extent that she certainly never endeared herself to the crowd. Like when she came in, the goal wasn't to turn her heel immediately. It's what they pivoted to when they got the response that they got for her,
which was flat.
Yeah. They were expecting the female CM Punk reaction. They booked it like the female CM Punk situation. Like instead of Chicago, they did it in Boston. They hyped it up off her being there, and it didn't really land. And I've gone on record, and I will continue to say it. Of the 4 horsewomen, she is my favorite. And I think she has all the skill, all the tools, all the ability to be such an important player in their women's division. The problem is, I think I think a lot of people were turned off by the fact that she came in immediately and won.
Fair.
I think a lot of people were like, Tony saw the big name and put the diamond on her out the gate, when not a lot of other people really got that ever. Like, I think the only other person who really got that treatment was Okada. And Okada is Okada. He's undeniably one of the best, if not the best in the world. So it's, I don't know. Hold on. Eric's saying in the comments, it doesn't help that she's the biggest star but has the mid-card title. She's getting drowned out a bit. See, I got to disagree with you. Yeah, I don't
think it has anything to do with it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but going back to when the title was first created, it never really felt all that much like a mid-card title. It gets oftentimes more TV time than the actual world title.
It did for a long while, especially, just a lot. I mean, they were pushing Jade a lot when in the beginning of it. And then Statlander had it, and she was just putting on banger after banger after banger. And then you can just kind of go from there. Like, that title has become like, the workwoman's title, for lack of a better phrase. Like, when you have that title, like, you are going out there and you're just supposed to be putting on bangers. And I think because of that, they kind of ended up on TV a little bit more, whereas the AEW Women's Championship, a lot of it honestly got wrapped up in the Outcasts during that time, which didn't help either. So
I need Mercedes and Queen Aminata to run it back on pay-per-view. That was some good shit. And that is actually something I wanted to address too with what Rev was saying. Connection aside, when it comes to Mercedes, I do agree something's not fully clicking, and I think they need to push her harder in the heel territory. I think right now it's just sort of generic heel. But I will say, I was watching this match tonight thinking this was one of her better matches since signing with AEW. And maybe that's just me.
It's not very good.
It's not like she did anything so out there that it's like, whoa, well, look at this match. But it didn't feel like there were any botches. It didn't feel like anything wasn't flowing correctly. It felt everything was hitting.
Crash.
What?
I said that we're seeing some highlights here, and this was a great air raid crash from Aminata.
And I think some of that goes to Aminata. She's got a great style. Great style, and she's a good foil for Mercedes. I also think that it helps that Mercedes is kind of getting away from the Joshis a little bit, and because that was something that she was so interested in doing and interested in being a part of. But I think getting back to the American style of wrestling is going to help her out a little bit.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that a lot of people have been saying her recent match with Emi Sakura has been one of her better ones in AEW.
And it
probably
was
just because she is so used to working Joshi style of late.
Yeah, but I think she needs to focus on where she is. That is,
Yeah, that looked like it hurt.
I'll be in my bunk, but
Okay.
But yeah, no, I thought this match hit. I thought everybody did very well, and I'm hoping Aminata gets a real shot sooner than later. It's funny because we could talk about it, I guess. I mean, it gets talked about later in the show, but we'll talk about it now. Or briefly bring it up. The PWI Women's 250.
Yep.
And Athena is in like the top 15, I think.
I think she might have been top 10. She might have been number 10.
She might have been number 10, but she deserves to be so much higher. The problem is she's in a place where nobody gives a shit. All right, yeah, thank you, producer boy. And yeah, she's number 10. First of all, congratulations to Toni Storm.
Yeah. Well,
huge congratulations to Jordynne Grace. I'm so glad that people are paying attention. Any other year, if Toni Storm wasn't there, this was Jordynne Grace's year. But incredible for a TNA woman to go so high up. First time an AEW woman has been number 1 on the list. So that's awesome.
Look what happens when you give them time, Tony.
But Athena needs to leave Ring of Honor. Not just for herself, but for the Ring of Honor women's division. Because that should be a place where a lot of other women are going to maybe get over and build themselves up, and winning the ROH women's title should be a big deal down there. But like right now, the person feuding against Athena is fucking Abaddon. And I love Abaddon. I am rooting for Abaddon in all things. But yeah. I don't think Abaddon is going to be the person who dethrones the longest reigning ROH champion of all time. So it's Athena needs to make it to the main roster, and someone like Aminata winning the ROH title, someone like I don't want to say Layla Gray, but like Billy Starks, people who can continue to get over and start to thrive. I think we just need some freshening up. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Billy being the one to beat Athena would be fun. Because there's all that history and storyline there, so that'd be good. Are they still running together?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, yeah. So that'd be. I know they faced each other already, but it'd be cool. Like if Billy was the one to
run it back,
take it off of her, and then Athena has her her farewell and goes up to AEW. You're right, Athena. Excuse me, $5. Athena is such a big fish in a small pond down there, so. I think her coming up would be very helpful. It would add even more depth to the AEW women's division, which is already getting pretty deep and continues to get deeper. So we'll see what happens there. I think Mercedes, getting back to that point really quick, she kind of has something similar to Adam Cole, where she's been pretty much the same character forever. At least for like the boss, the CEO, it's all pretty much the same shit.
She debuted as Charlotte's best friend.
Yeah.
And then she turned into like the boss.
Yeah.
But it's been the boss CEO ever since.
Yeah. And I think you said, when she was like, oh, it's generic heel. You're right. I mean, she comes out, she introduced herself to the crowd and kind of, gets the cheap pop from saying the town name and endears herself to them a little bit. Then she runs down her opponent, and then, Moné changes everything, and that's every promo.
Yep.
And it's similar to Cole. Like, it's the same thing every time, except we don't really care about saying these as much as we care about saying the ones that Cole does. So I think she needs some sort of character shift in some way, shape, or form. Like, she's just calling herself the CEO. Does that actually mean anything? I saw somebody mention that. Especially considering you have EVPs, and that actually does mean something. Obviously, Tony Khan's CEO, I would imagine. But just something needs to change with her. I don't know what it will be. She got a business card from MVP. I don't think she needs to join him, but she needs some sort of shift. And I guess hopefully that comes about because she needs to do something, I think, to just adjust her presentation to the crowd so that it clicks a little bit more.
Do you remember that famous thing she did to get heat where she broke Izzy's thing?
Yeah, she took the headband off of her head.
And
that is one of, if not my favorite women's match of all time.
Yeah,
is Bayley versus Sasha in the it was an Iron Woman match, I think.
Yeah,
in NXT. So
I think the issue is the current Mercedes Moné does not feel like somebody who would actively do that. She feels more like a mean girl who's going to be snotty and catty to you, but she's not going to have that viciousness in her. And I think we need to see that. I think we need to see some brutality from her.
Right. Like, and because even when she does need the brutality, she just hands it off to Camille.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And, see, now I think that's something they could play off, though, because she could be a person, be like, I have an image to maintain, you know. She probably can't mention this because it's Warner Brothers versus Disney, but she did Star Wars. Like, she has Hollywood obligations occasionally. You know, she's like, I can't get involved in this. I have a reputation to maintain. And then just send Camille to do it. So, like, you can at least do something like that instead of just, as you said, she's just so blah generic at the moment. And I saw a lot of people complaining. It just feels very WWE at the moment.
Yeah.
And I agree. She needs to change something up. Eric's saying a woman's led stable could be cool if she led the stable. And I'm assuming you mean a stable of both men and women. That would be cool as well. I don't know who she would lead, but
we had one in the history of AEW. We've had one. I'll give you $1 right now if you could say who it was.
It was a woman leading a stable.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember.
Brandy Rhodes. Yep.
Oh yeah, that was okay, but that wasn't just that was all women though, wasn't it?
No,
it was like
Luther was in it.
Oh fucking A. Wow. That honestly, that was all so short.
Yep.
That I forgot. I mean, that poor woman shaved her head and then it went nowhere.
And then never came back to AEW.
I think she was back on the show later, but it was so long she had grown her hair all the way back out.
Oof.
So yeah, that didn't go well. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Mercedes. Hopefully she can figure something out, tweak something. I mean, I saw somebody bring up that they have her WWE writer in there, and maybe that's part of the problem. Because he's writing, you know, I think they called him Vince Pilled.
Damn.
So, and just because, you know, you've been writing under somebody for so long, you tend to write with that style. But they need to figure something out to shift her character one way or the other to try to get a little something more out of her. All right, let us move on to our next segment where we went backstage for another interview, this time with Private Party. And when Renee asks them a question before they can say anything, they are interrupted by the Young Bucks, who actually are there pretty much just to hear what they have to say. Zay goes on to say that while the Bucks were the better men on Saturday, he knows that they could have and maybe should have beaten them. And as he's getting to the point, Matthew just cuts him off, be like, what do you want? And Quinn says that they want another shot at the titles. Matthew responds by saying he was wrong about them being nothing better than a mid-card act. Hell, they even kicked out of the EVP trigger. But Nicholas interrupts and says that doesn't work for them, brother. And that they will never get another shot at the titles while they are champs. Matthew wishes them luck, but says they won't be doing this again, and they walk away. Stokely Hathaway then walks up to Private Party and says none of this would have happened if he was at ringside for them, but Private Party had refused his help. He says that the duo haven't been able to do anything of note in AEW, and they've been there since the Obama administration, which it's always weird in my head how long ago that was now, but it was pretty long.
No, wait, it's not even true, though. They weren't around the Obama administration.
Maybe he said together since the Obama administration. I mean, they were on being the elite a long time ago. They were fighting that bear, remember?
Wasn't that during AEW?
I thought that was before. I could be wrong.
I don't know. Regardless.
Yeah, I thought maybe I don't remember. Somebody would have to check that. Anyway, Stokely makes his final point saying that if something like this happens again, it's likely the end of Private Party, throwing in that Zay is obviously the bigger single star between the two of them. Stokely leaves and Quen looks pretty pissed off, but Zay just looks at Quen and he just repeats, if that's what it takes, if that's what it takes. So you mentioned earlier that there were 2 teases of teams breaking up tonight. This was the other one. I wasn't sure if this was a tease of them breaking up or a tease of them joining Stokely. And I think they left it open-ended on purpose.
I don't need to see them turn heel again. They should stay face because that match on Saturday had no heat behind it whatsoever. Obama was 8 years in office, so yeah, but it ended in 2016.
Yeah, AEW's only been 5 years. So it's weird.
That match had no heat behind it. That match had no energy behind it in the beginning. By the end of that match, fans were behind Private Party winning the titles off of the Bucks. That crowd was silent, and then they came alive for Private Party. That's the type of thing that you don't want to squander by turning them heel, especially because they flip-flop a lot already.
Yeah.
They've already gone back and forth between face and heel, I think, a couple of times. So I think keeping them face is the way to go. I hope they reject Stokely. And if a team is going to split up from the 2 teams that were teased tonight, I would rather it be the Acclaimed. Because Private Party, Stokely's not wrong. Cassidy has, I think, the ability to be a single star.
Yeah, and he frankly, not that he was a single star, but he was away from Quen for a long time when Quen was out injured. And granted, Quen had his own kind of, time alone when Isaiah went out after Quen came back. But even then, Cassidy had far longer on his own.
So I don't know that Mark can stand on his own. Maybe he can, and we just haven't been shown that yet. But I think Bowens and Caster can handle being on their own. Both of them individually would be fine. I don't know that for Private Party. And more than anything, it would just be nice to actually see them finally win the tag titles.
Yeah, right.
But all that said, I read one of my favorite tweets or Reddit posts or whatever, or Reddit comments. And it was Stokely's only acting the way he's been acting lately because Stat stopped giving him uppies and he hasn't gotten over it yet. And I would act out of pocket too. I would. But we're just, has there ever been mention as to why she's not with Stokely anymore?
So not on TV, but on Twitter, I think she tweeted out an invoice, or he tweeted out an invoice she sent him for like $500,000 or something after she lost her match. Like I forget what it was specifically, but he was very pissed off that she had the gall to send him an invoice. And like what she invoiced him was ridiculous. And she just tweeted back at him, "Oh, good, I'm glad you got it." So I don't know. I like they were just going in 2 different directions for some reason. I don't know if like the heel face alignment was flipping or not.
She won the feud against Willow. And then Stat immediately went towards the TBS title while Willow went towards the women's world title. It didn't make any fucking sense.
And I think that's why they ditched Stokely's, because now it looks like Stat's going back for the TBS championship. And she's going against a heel Mercedes Moné, so back to face Statlander for some weird reason.
Look, I like face Stat.
I like why.
Granted, she was a great heel too, I think, in my opinion. I think she had the energy for it, but it just feels weird.
Yeah, it's like they broke those 2 women up. I know they weren't a tag team, but they broke them up, had them turn on each other just for that great feud, and then we're just gonna be like, okay, that's done with now. Let's throw all of it out and move on from there. Like Willow got great character development out of it, and all of the character development that Stat got is now just going in the trash can because she's facing a heel. Like, or just give me the friggin' heel versus heel match. I don't care. It'll work. I don't know. Or maybe have her go against Mercedes and then Stokely like turns on her in order to like try to endear himself to Mercedes, and then Mercedes just rejects him. Like, at least give me a reason why they're breaking up instead of them just having to make some shit up on Twitter. Like, for fuck's sake. You're better than that, Tony. You're better than that. All right. Anyway, after that, we went to commercial. Just feels weird. That's my wife's line. We went to commercial and came back to a backstage promo from the Elite. Jack Perry leads the charge here, saying that today is Kenny Omega's birthday, which is a very important day in the history of AEW. So first of all, happy birthday to Kenny. I hope you're doing well in your recovery. And Jack then says that he knows Kenny really hasn't been around since they almost ended his life. And he had to have 20, he said feet of his intestines, I think.
No, that's it.
Yeah. It's one of those weird things, and I should know this because this didn't happen to my grandpa. He didn't have diverticulitis, but my grandfather did have a lot of his intestines removed. You have a lot of intestines. Yeah. So I hear feet sometimes, and then I like, there's no way that's possible. And then I'm like, no, wait, actually, it is possible. So anyway, as I was saying, Jack said Kenny had to have 20 feet of his intestines removed to save his life. But they got Kenny something anyway, despite the fact he wasn't there. And a cake is brought out to the table that is in front of them saying, happy birthday, Kenny. As they zoom in on the cake, Jack then pours a bunch of guts onto the cake, assuming they were animal guts, grossing out pretty much everyone. Okada wishes Kenny a happy birthday, bitch, and he and the Bucks walk away. And then Jack finishes up by saying to Kenny that he can live or die. He doesn't care. So,
what an awful thing to say, right?
Well, Jack's piece of shit. You haven't noticed?
Clearly.
And a bit of a creepy one, too, because
right?
Guts everywhere. So,
where did he get them?
Butcher.
Who just has guts?
Go to the butcher. It's not that hard. People eat those, man.
They were wet. It was wet.
Well, it probably could have been a bucket of water. Like,
yeah.
All right, well, before James throws up, let's move on to our next match, which saw the Conglomeration. And
by the way, that tweet was me. That tweet was absolutely me.
For those of you listening, it was me sitting in the stands at Wembley waiting for Kenny Omega to show back, and there was this girl like crying, makeup.
Do we have fans that listen? Do we post anything on like an Audible setting anymore?
I don't know. I advertise it every week. I hope we do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
hasn't really answered when I've asked, so yeah. I don't know if we do.
The Conglomeration, made up of Orange, Cassidy, Rocky Romero, and Cool Kyle O'Reilly, was facing off against the Elite, led by the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada. And this match was actually pretty good. Solid 6-man tag, a lot of talent in the ring, a lot of fun. Orange recently having being pushed to be like the guy now. A lot of them are saying like you could be the man here in AEW if you actually tried, led by Jerry Lynn saying that last week. And it looked like Orange was actually going to pick up the win, fighting off the 3 members of the Elite and lining up one Matthew Jackson for an Orange punch. And it got completely fucking ruined because Wheeler Yuta came in and hit Orange with a Psycho knee, started beating the shit out of him.
He really just never got over leaving the best friends.
He really didn't.
He won't let it go.
Yep. As the Elite decide that discretion is the better part of valor and leave the ring, the rest of the former BCC, I wrote former, but apparently they are still the BCC.
Yeah, they're being very vague on it, but yeah, they are the BCC right now.
I mean, freaking Evil Uno wasn't vague on it. He called them the BCC straight up. Anyway, the rest of the BCC come down to the ring, and they just wipe the Conglomeration out wholesale. Just kick the absolute shit out of them. Top Flight then come down from backstage to try to make the save, and they get their asses kicked for their
past
trouble.
The Elite.
Right. The Elite are still on the ramp, and they're just in shock. Clearly, they had nothing to do with this, as pointed out by commentary. And then the top Flight is then followed by the Dark Order, who Reynolds actually stopped on the ramp to try to get the Elite to help. He's like, do you not see what's going on here? You have to help. But the Elite decide to stay out of the way, and Dark Order get their shit kicked in as well. Eventually, Moxley grabs a mic and says that if you're involved in All Elite Wrestling, you're under attack, and that they need to understand that this is the cost of doing business. And as he says that, Pac and Claudio take Reynolds, put him up against one of the ring posts, and slam the steps into his midsection.
That was rough to see.
As the locker room then begins to empty, led by Christopher Daniels, the BCC then, I missed that. That was that funny. The BCC then decides to clear the ring before they can get caught and make their way backstage. So, James, you can comment on this match if you want. I liked it, but it got completely overshadowed by what happened after because the BCC just wiped out 3 trios teams wholesale.
Yeah,
no problem.
Poor Rocky Romero.
Yeah.
It was what it was. You know, it was a beatdown. It's making Moxley's group look strong. It's making them look powerful. Commentary did a good job of pointing out that Orange has been behind Bryan for a very long time. Orange is one of like the centerpieces of AEW right now, and that's why Moxley's focusing on him. That's why this group is focusing on him.
Yeah. That and they went and helped Bryan on Saturday.
Yeah,
and
I'll be honest.
Times before that.
When did this happen? I don't remember this happening.
That with Jack Perry here?
Yeah,
it might have been a week you were out. I believe I covered that one on my own.
Gotcha.
It was good. I think it was the second week Moxley was coming in and just beating the shit out of everybody. It was just him and Marina at the time. And they were coming out, and he was coming out to explain himself. And they came in to the building, they kicked the shit out of some people, and then they walked by the Elite, and he stopped and said that to Jack. So,
the big, interesting, exciting thing for me is the Elite crossing paths with the not BCC. Because reports have been sort of talking about it the last couple of days too. How awkwardly the Elite storyline just sort of stopped being the central storyline of AEW. That they went from being the big bad guys that AEW was rallying behind to whatever, they're just bad guy champions.
You know what this is? This is they tried to have Kang as the big baddie, and then he started assaulting people behind the scenes, and they were like, "Oh, we can't do this storyline anymore." So then they brought in the new big baddie, Dr. Doom, and Dr. Doom is the BCC, and Kang is the Elite. Boom.
It's kind of crazy. Like, take away the assault aspects of everything, but you're not entirely wrong with that analogy.
So the actual reason, I think this was according to Meltzer.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but apparently Tony Khan refuses to let anybody else get any semblance of credit, even in kayfabe, for booking the show.
It can't be true.
I know it sounds too egotistical, and therefore he didn't want anybody to question whether or not orders were coming down from him. So he kind of cut the whole EVP thing off at the knees, and anything the Bucks try to do, like, he just wants credit for. So yeah, I agree. That is ridiculous. And if that is the case, it really killed what was a kind of a fun storyline.
That's something that even Vince wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Like, Vince had no problem having the authority figures be the authority figure,
Yeah, but he occasionally came in and overrode them in kayfabe,
but that was for like very special instances,
Yeah. He's Vince McMahon, damn it. Or he was.
Just, I thought it was crazy. I really don't want to believe that story is true. I think it more had to do with the fact that the Elite just weren't getting, like, they were getting go away heat, not heat. Like, other than Okada, no, but like, I love the Bucks, but they are not all that beloved right now. And Jack Perry will forever be the most divisive guy in AEW.
Yeah, I really actually enjoyed what the Bucks were doing, and
I
think the bigger problem was I thought they ran everything too quickly. Like, they lost the blood and guts match, and then also too there was no stakes to that.
Yeah,
I thought that they should have extended it out a little bit, and then the stakes should have been, well, the EVPs lose any semblance of power in terms of running the show, and whoever's facing them, Team AEW is let out by Tony Khan, and he's like, "Go get them, boys!" Like something like that. Like, it would have been way better, but they compressed it all really quickly. and there was no stakes. So now the EVPs still kind of have power, but they don't because allegedly backstage, Tony in real life doesn't want them to have any. Like, it's just now all convoluted and stupid. And I keep using this to cut them off at the knees, and it's just nothing now.
The way I interpret it is that the Elite have an incredible amount of control over the things that they're involved in. And I'm talking in kayfabe.
Yeah.
Like, their contracts are written in such a way that when it comes to who's going to challenge them for the tag titles, they have the ability to say, that's not going to work for me, brother. You know? That's how I'm interpreting it. But I am excited to see the BCC get involved with them because I hope it puts some shine back on the Elite. And we're just 2 or 3 months away from Kenny coming back.
I think that's actually going to be a thing. Like, does this lead to a face turn for the Elite? Because
I hope not.
They are getting involved, and despite the fact that they are heels, they still do love AEW. Like, they were doing everything they said because they wanted to protect AEW and make it better. So it could lead to some, or it might be a heel on heel dynamic, but at some point, I do think they have to come to the defense of the company.
I think this would be a great instance of, if they're able to creatively get it there, an Anarchy in the Arena match or a Stadium Stampede match. Probably Anarchy in the Arena, but a 3-team Anarchy in the Arena, where it's Team Elite versus Team BCC versus Team like AEW. And chaos. I'm fucking here for it. I am fucking here for it. I do want to read out Eric's comment. He said, to be honest, the current BCC killing Tony would have been way better than the Bucks. I think it would be amazing. I think it was amazing that the Bucks did it, and Okada did it, and Scapegoat did it, but there just wasn't a proper follow-up, as opposed to, and that's what you said. But I feel like if the BCC did it now, there would have been proper follow-up. I just don't.
I saw people in that thread about Tony wanting, all the credit, saying all they got out of it was he was on an NFL Network draft show with the neck brace on, and a lot of people thought I thought it was great too, and a lot of people thought it took the piss out of what happened. And then within the next 2 weeks, I don't agree either. But I will say within the next couple of weeks, he was dropping Darby off at the show, and he looked fine, and I think that did more damage to the plot or to that moment than him being in the neck brace that the Jaguars draft room did. So I don't know. I think there was a lot that went wrong with that storyline, whatever it may be. But I'm very interested in what's happening with this one. So
I saw this tweet too, by the way. Mox destroying Joe would be such a holy shit moment, and I agree. But I think the person he needs to absolutely destroy is Orange. It sucks because I'm an Orange fan and I want him to be the guy at some point. But I think he needs the beatdown that he gave on him to win the international title needs to look like nothing compared to what he does to him now.
Yeah. Honestly, I think there's a couple of people who should probably get absolutely wrecked. And if he can get back, and you're not going to like it, Mox needs to kill Kenny Omega.
All right. I almost had a very visceral reaction.
But hear me out. I think everyone thinks the end game to this is Darby winning the title, right? Does that feel right to you?
I mean, yes. For me, yes.
Because if he kills Orange, if he kills Kenny, oh my God, did he kill Kenny? And Darby finally has to step up and be the guy that he's been like he thought he was all of this time. I think, and save the company. I think that could be a good ending to that story.
Or he kills Darby and Kenny beats Moxley and James is happy.
Yeah, but that's just such an obvious one, and you're not building a new star out of that. I mean, not that Darby isn't a star, but you propel him.
Captain America wasn't a young up-and-coming talent when he fought Thanos' army by himself, okay? He just wasn't. I don't need a new star. I want the old stars. I like this is nice, but I like this.
Yeah, but I mean, look, Kenny can still do great things too. He could beat Okada for the Continental Championship if you want, but I think Moxley killing, like in the way that person just said, Moxley killing Joe would be a huge moment. Him destroying Kenny would also be a huge one as well. I said you weren't going to like it, but you know I'm right.
What's the name of this podcast?
Mark it down.
I am the mark in question. I am the titular mark, and I am not down with that.
Get it in, producer boy.
Sorry, I had to pick up my. Anyway, so I'm gonna say something that you never thought I would say ever in a million years. But let's just assume that you can't do Darby because he's gonna lose it anyway because he's going on a mountain, and you can't give it to Orange because whatever, he's not built up enough in the time that they need him to be built up.
I know who he's gonna say,
dude. I'm just saying, and even though it just happened, so that would annoy me. If let's say you give it at least a year and you somehow build this guy up to be an amazing heel that's kind of kept captive, if they did it right, this is the only way that it could work. It can't be done now. It can't be done tomorrow. It could have never been done in the last 5 years because he's absolutely terrible as a face. But if they do it well, and they know that he'll do well as a face.
He's building this up so much.
And they know that he'll do well as a face after winning the title. This is the only way that you can do it. I would say you could do a version of
Jesus Christ
when Randy Orton was getting turned on by whatever his name was,
Triple
and they
H.
blew that. They can do it with Yuta. And actually, I take back one part. You don't even need him to be the greatest face of all time because he's going to lose it immediately to Christian. And then that, you could do the whole Darby shit after, but I think Darby returning from a mountain and that whole storyline would be way better than him just like defeating Moxley now. I think it's way too obvious. And it's like, Hangman winning the title was obvious and everybody loved it anyway. So I guess you could argue that too. But to me, I think Darby would be way too obvious, especially if it's going to happen in the next 2 months. I think it's silly. Anyway, I would say based on the last month or so, I think Yuta's done a great job of his acting skills are a lot better than a lot of the young guys. And he's done a really good job at acting, and they haven't put him in a bad position where he's why is he in this match? But yeah, I think he's doing really well in this angle, and I think ideally that would be end goal for me. That's all I gotta say.
It took 2 years, but he's finally come around on Wheeler.
Right? I am blown away right now.
Amazing what happens when you actually let a guy grow and figure it out and give him TV time.
I'm a little speechless.
I do slightly agree with the notion that when this all starts to blow up, Wheeler will be the one to turn face and stand alongside AEW people versus this BCC at some point, because he joined under such terrible, pretenses by, literally crying when he took out Bryan and refusing to watch when they stomped his neck in. Yeah,
they need to explain why because even afterwards he insta'd a picture of him doing it and he wrote "Sorry, Bryan."
Yep.
So there's got to be a reason that all of a sudden he made that change. I love Yuta. I wouldn't pick Yuta, but I love Yuta. I also agree, Eric, it's not going to end in 3 months. I would like for it to, because I don't need Mox to be champion that long again. But Eric saying he can't see this ending in 3 months because then you have this heel group with a newly heel Yuta, and the group just looks dumb if their leader has already lost the title. I agree. I think a solid 6 months is fine. I don't think he needs to be champion for a year. I don't need that, quite frankly.
He needs to be champ long enough for all of this to play out. Whatever this is, because we still don't really know, which is slightly driving me insane and slightly actually that's kind of cool. But whatever this is, you got to give it time to play out, because if they don't give it time to play out the way they didn't let the Bucks EVP stuff time to play out, you're going to end up with the same thing.
Yeah,
so
no, I agree.
Where you're kind of just leaving a whole bunch of stuff on the table. So I'm good with however long this logically needs to go. I'm good with Moxley holding the title for that period of time.
Likewise. I will just address one other thing that he said. I don't think predictability is a bad thing. I don't think we all knew Cody would eventually be the guy to take the title off Roman. We thought it would happen a year earlier than it did, but we all knew he was going to be the guy to do it. But when it happened, it was absolutely the right move. I think Darby being the guy to beat Moxley works and makes sense, and I don't think it being predictable hurts it at all, because they've been telling the story with him for literally years where he has not been able to beat Mox. So for him to finally do it would be great. Do I need it to be Darby? No, I don't need it to be Darby. But it would be really convenient for him to win it, lose it the same night, and then goes away for 2 months and then comes back to reclaim it from Christian.
Yeah.
I think that would all be very convenient.
And I think I did want to note this at some point. I guess now is a logical time. They mentioned on commentary at multiple points throughout the show that Darby has been unreachable since Saturday. He did appear in a pre-tape, trying to raise money for charity. But I like that idea of just like, he is so distraught about what happened that no one can find him. And I'm curious to see if that leads to him changing something. Maybe he does a little bit more of like a Sting type of thing, or he's just in the rafters all the time again.
That would be cool.
Maybe it leads towards that, like him taking a page out of Sting's book, which makes sense with Darby. So I'm curious to see where that ends up going as well. I did want to jump in for his comments.
Yeah.
He was asking about a female getting this treatment from the BCC, as they obviously have Marina Shafir, and then what woman would end up getting the beatdown. And I agree at some point. I do think that they should get the women's division involved. If you're going to try to take over the company, you should take over the whole company. But at the moment, I don't think they necessarily need it, just because Marina's kicking the shit out of all these dudes, no problem. Yeah. It's working. It's cool. I buy her as legit because I know she's a legit fighter.
There's also the issue too of the fact that the women's champions are heels already right now. So you would need to get it on a face really quickly to then have that face lose it pretty quickly to Marina, and I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's something we got to deal with. And then good hypothetical from You Know It. What about the four pillars uniting to take on the BCC? I don't know if Britt Baker would get involved, but I'm down.
I knew that was coming.
But realistically, MJF, sure. Jack Perry seems to be buddy with Moxley, at least.
Yeah,
so
right.
I don't know that happens. Sammy Guevara is physically broken right now.
As is tradition.
Fast recovery. Wishing you the best, Sammy. And who's number 4? Oh, Darby.
He's already at the top of the list of people we think is going to finish this off. So,
yeah, maybe. But I also don't know that the four pillars have what it takes to beat this new BCC.
Yeah, it's an interesting possibility. If it does happen, they take that out.
Yeah,
they do. They have to, because they all fucking hate each other.
And that's exactly why I'm cool with him. So Eric's comment here, Jesus. I've said it before, but I think Darby coming back after the mountain with long hair and a beard or whatever would be sick. I agree, and I think that's why it's okay with him. I'm okay with him winning the title and then immediately losing it, because then he takes that time on the mountain to recenter, whatever, refocus, whatever, and then he comes back as like a very different Darby Allin looking for revenge. I think that'd be great.
You guys are really just like the mountain. He's climbing Everest. This isn't just some jaunts up a hill.
It's the mountain. It's the mountain. It's the mountain.
Like
I'm not taking him to the Alps. He's not going to Aspen.
A lot can hopefully it doesn't, but a lot can go wrong. So,
All right, this is what I'll say. I'm pretty sure JBL climbed Everest. If JBL can climb Everest, I think Darby can.
Did he climb it? I would love to check that. Producer Boy, can you check that? I bet you he climbed Kilimanjaro. I would be surprised if he did that. Kilimanjaro is the highest peak in Africa, and that's no jaunt either. That's pretty difficult, but people tend to do that a bit more often. Everest is dangerous as often.
All right, I just looked it up. No, JBL did not climb Mount Everest, but he did plan to in 2014.
And I guess he just didn't get the opportunity.
Well, that's crazy. So I have something in common with JBL. I planned on climbing Everest at one point too. Just never happened. But A for effort, A for desire.
I climbed the highest mountain in Europe. So okay, it's not Kilimanjaro, but that's still a good one. If you climb the highest peak on a continent, that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, we'll look. There's a long time for us to play out, and we're all just speculating based on what happened in the last 4 days, 2 shows. So I'm very intrigued. I'm excited to see what happens. And there was actually more to this because after the beatdown ended, we went backstage to a retreating Elite who were quickly asked by, I think it was Lexi Nair. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was, I don't know her real name. I think it was Tits McGee. Wasn't it Tits McGee?
Alicia Tout.
Alicia Tout. I'm sorry. I never learned her real name. I just know her as that because of MJF. She asked them how they could let this happen as EVPs. Matthew says what happened out there is none of their business. And at this point, Daniel Garcia and Private Party confront them about not helping out. The two groups start arguing with Garcia and Perry going forehead to forehead as their rivalry begins to bud. And it seems that Garcia will be going for the TBS championship in the near future before the Bucks pull Perry away and the Elite leave. Garcia then tells Private Party that he's got their back if they've got his, and they all agree and dap each other up. So we have that, and I like this point from commentary saying that it looks like we're having a bunch of different alliances, and you can kind of see some. You got Top Flight, you've got Private Party and Garcia now, you have the Dark Order, the Elite are there, but they're seemingly trying to stay out of it. But you have all of these different segmented groups, and all of them, I guess maybe outside the Elite, are outnumbered. And the Elite want no part of this. But it's at least 4-on-3, maybe 5-on-3 if you consider Shafir. So interesting to see how all this group warfare plays out, especially if all these groups try to go at the BCC one at a time before realizing that they need to all join forces. The Conglomeration does have 4 people technically, but Shafir is a difference maker.
I'm still waiting for the Elite to get their revenge on Adam Cole.
Baby. I mean, they did kill him once. I mean, do they have to go after him again?
All I'm saying is he had the last shot in on them.
True. But they killed him.
He got better.
Got better. All right. After this, we went to commercial and came back with our next match with Shelton Benjamin face off against Lio Rush in Shelton's AEW debut. I will jump to the end of this, where after Lio went up to the top rope, Shelton quickly followed him up there because fucking Shelton Benjamin, he's like a cat, and surprised Lio, hitting him with an avalanche butterfly suplex. With MVP screaming at him to end it, Shelton starts hitting Lio with German suplexes where he's just tossing him across the ring. Lio has a brief counter attempt to try to stop everything, but Shelton quickly stuffed that out with a kick to the back of the head, and he finished Lio off with a flatliner and an exploder power slam. Honestly, I thought Lio was out for a second there because that flatliner did not look good.
By the way, this was an incredible spot.
Yeah, he just I don't know how Shelton Benjamin does things like this. Anyway, after the match, MVP gets in the ring and he puts his business card into Leo's trunks. I think Producer Boy had up the picture earlier of Lio holding the business card and grabbed the mic. MVP says that this is Swerve's future. Oh, excuse me. First, he said that he can't make much more of a statement than the one Shelton had just made here tonight, and instead turns his attention to the aforementioned Swerve. MVP says that this is Swerve's future and suggests that they finish the conversation that they started at Wrestle Dream, with Swerve facing off with the standard of excellence, Shelton Benjamin. But James, as for this match, I loved it. I think it was probably match of the night. It was close because I think Leo was the perfect guy to have Shelton go against in his first match in AEW. Leo is great at being tossed around like a rag doll, and he was able to get his shit in too. Like Leo did not look weak in this defeat, but he was able to sell so well for Shelton, and having somebody who was small and able to sell, but also be athletically be able to keep up with Shelton, because we saw what he can do there in these clips that Producer Boy has had up. I think it was a great opponent for him. I think, it said it earlier in the chat that Leo had probably the performance of the night because of how great he did bumping for Shelton, as we see Shelton get that suplex up.
Clean living, baby.
I mean, he's a freak. Shelton is, and I mean that obviously politely. And Leo being in the ring just was able to add to that and truly show off how good Shelton is, and kind of how locked down he's been, I feel like, in the last few years, because we haven't seen this Shelton in a while.
Yeah. Hey, there's a reason this is the only man who could ever claim to be Brock Lesnar's tag team partner.
Yep.
He's that damn good. I'm not typically ever a big fan of the I got beat down by these guys, I'm going to join them now concept. But I really want to hear Leo Rush, Lashley. I think he did so well for Bobby. I think he was great for Bobby at a point where they didn't know what they were doing with Bobby in WWE.
The only downside was the hit him with your favorite pose thing, but that was just Vince being Vince, I have to imagine. But other than that, he did help Lashley get over.
So I would love to see him sort of take Cedric Alexander's spot. I think this group, if they really curate it properly, could be something special.
Yeah.
And I know there are people who, and even the wrestlers involved, are bringing the race issue into it. And I'm okay with a dominant black group in AEW. I think it would be a great thing to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I know why Cedric didn't go to AEW.
Pourquoi?
He's married to Big Swole.
Yeah. That didn't go great.
God damn it.
Man. I forgot about that. That is the name I haven't had in a long time.
Yeah. But damn. But yeah, I would like that group. I think that group, if carefully curated, I think if you have the three of them and then you maybe add in Hobbs' name has been thrown around a lot, and I think he would benefit from being there too. But man, I think you could make something really great with that group.
Hobbs ain't going to be back for a while. That needs.
No, he's apparently good.
Really?
Apparently,
why am I not
ready to come back? Apparently, he's close to coming back. And I'm chomping at the bit for Bobby. It's so weird because he's so fucking old. Bobby is so old, but he doesn't look it. He doesn't move like it. And if they decided to make him AEW World Champ, my nips would get hard. So it's like, just do it. If all these people join Hurt Business. All I'm saying is, so Bobby, Shelton, Leo,
and Hobbs.
I think that's a fine four-man group. You have a main guy, a mid-card guy, and a tag. I think you can do it.
What's the biggest stable in wrestling history? My guess is the NWO, yeah.
That's the thing. If we're talking like realistic numbers where it's actually like it makes sense, or I don't even want to say it makes sense, probably Chaos from New Japan.
Yeah.
Or honestly, Bullet Club at one point had like 15 guys.
Yeah, I feel like NWO had like 30 though.
Yeah,
like half the roster was NWO and half of it wasn't.
It just feels like NWO is such an easy, like silly answer, but it is though. It is.
Well, I mean, I'm like actually reading through that part of the Wrestler Observer Rewinds right now, and just actually I'm up to the screw job. But like you can just see like everyone just wants to be in the NWO because
TV time.
And if TV time. and all those guys controlled the booking. And if you weren't in NWO, you weren't cool, and you were getting booed.
Yeah.
So that's
it was literally a time of you're either NWO or you're not.
Yeah, and you were cool or you were not.
Yeah.
You were NWO or you're one of the cruiserweights who are actually putting on the good parts of the show.
Yeah.
So I did want to shout out, with another great joke in here. Guinness Book of World Records was there tonight checking the distance on the throw on Leo. It was 2 inches short, but good effort. Shelton was tossing him around. And that's why I thought it was so good. Like, maybe it wasn't match of the night, but I thought for me it was it was the most impressive one just because of how good they made Shelton look in his debut here tonight.
There's a reality where Shelton's first match would have been against Swerve and Swerve would have won. And I would have hated it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that's going to happen either next week or the week after.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks
Yeah,
from now.
and that makes much more sense. Because then you can give Shelton another match or two, either on Collision or again on Dynamite, and get him another big, impressive win like this. And then they go up against Swerve. And hell, you probably could have Shelton beating Swerve if Lashley gets involved, and that's how they debut him.
Yeah.
It's possible.
What's the over-under on Charlie Haas joining?
It's a good question. I got to look the odds up on that. So we'll call it even money right now. I forgot about him. Fuck.
The last he showed up anywhere was TNA a few years ago. It was Impact still. And he showed up for like one taping, and then he got hurt in the second taping really, really badly. And that was the last I heard about him.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Took me a minute to place him.
Who, Charlie Haas?
Yeah. I hadn't seen him in so long. I forgot what he looked like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see how this. I guess it was officially the Hurt Syndicate. That was what was on Shelton's trunk.
Stupid fucking name.
I actually kind of like it. I've always liked the good Syndicate.
I don't mind the Syndicate part. I don't mind the Syndicate part. It could have been I think the Pain Syndicate would have been better. I think the Pain Syndicate would have been better. Or even if they wanted to stick with the Pain business would have been okay.
Yeah.
I think Hurt Syndicate just doesn't work. But whatever. What do I know? I'm a mark.
I just like the word Syndicate. I really do.
I do too. I like Syndicate too. But I think Pain Syndicate it feels more oomph behind it.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Patrick the Heel here over on Twitter. Shelton Benjamin may genuinely be the most underutilized / underrated pro wrestler of all time.
Absolutely should have been a world champion back in the day.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people agree with that sentiment. Shelton's amazing, and for whatever reason, he just never got used that way, and it sucks, but...
We know the reason.
Yeah.
We know the reason.
Yeah. All right. After a commercial, we had the Darby thing first with the Tony Hawk signatures, and then we came back to a Swerve Strickland backstage interview where Renee asked Swerve his response to MVP's challenge, and Swerve just kind of left it off and left at the fact that their minimum or their maximum is now his minimum. He then said that he expected Shelton's match pretty much to go away. It did, and he accepts the challenge to face Shelton anytime, anywhere, and actually complimenting Shelton throughout, going over some of his accolades in amateur wrestling, both in college and in high school. So, one more note before we move on, Shelton. I did love how excited Shivani was to call his match for the first time.
He said it multiple times.
Like that
was awesome.
He was truly marking out on the announce table, and I feel like we haven't really seen Tony do that, like purely mark out over something, since like the early days of AEW.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And I think they either called a Boss Man Slam or a Vader Bomb. I think it was a Vader Bomb. And Tony was like, "That's what that's called now." And he didn't know that they had named it after Vader. And he was like just genuinely so excited that that's what people call it now. And it's nice, like every once in a while, Tony gets to do something that he hasn't done before. And he gets really excited about it because he really, truly does love wrestling. And it reminds me how happy I am that he's back in the sport.
I'm glad he also said that he's going to be around for at least another 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
We now go from the best to the worst as Tony was in the ring to introduce that carny piece of shit, Don Callis, for a press conference that he called, which he said he would have done it with reporters, but there are no. Yes, that's why you know it. He would have done it with reporters, but there's no real reporters in wrestling, so he figured he would just come out and tell everybody the truth. So Don comes out, flanked by Lance Archer, who we see on the screen in his varying hairstyles, and Brian Cage, who won the Ring of Honor Television Championship on 0 Hour on Saturday, which I did not know because I didn't watch 0 Hour. Don then steps up to the podium and recaps his trade for Archer, and I'm not sure how he got Cage. I guess he just signed him. They didn't really bring that up. I don't know if that's something that happens on 0 Hour.
I guess he's no longer with the other two guys from Ring of Honor, the Gates of Agony.
Gates of Agony, yeah. Either way, he mentions that Cage righted a wrong by bringing back the Ring of Honor Television Championship to the family, and then goes on to say that after getting a taste of the AEW tag titles at Grand Slam, he's recruited these two men to bring them home to him because who can stop them? So it looks like we're getting an Archer Cage tag team, which is a pretty good Hoss tag team, if you ask me. Callis then introduces Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle by God Fletcher, who then come down to the ring.
I didn't know he was bi.
Me neither. Takeshita speaks first in Japanese and then in English, saying that he will defend his new international title against any and all wrestlers around the world. And if somebody wants his title, they could come and take it. Fletcher then steps up to the mic, and he's very upset that all anybody wants to talk about is Will Ospreay when the Don Callis family is having the biggest night in their history. Fletcher asked everybody, do you want to know why I did what I did? And then immediately cuts us off saying, too bad. Callis closes things out, celebrating how great they're going to be, and da-da-da-da-da. He hugs Fletcher and then shakes everybody else's hand, and that is the end of that. But James, some interesting additions to the family. I do think the additions of Archer and Cage do kind of open up Powerhouse Hobbs to going to the Hurt Syndicate, as I don't think they really need him in the family anymore, and they finally have some numbers. But I am a little disappointed we didn't get to hear from Fletcher, or at least Fletcher's reasons. I think they're pretty obvious in that Will wasn't willing to do what he had to do in order to win a title because he wanted to do it the right way. And that costs Kyle his opportunity to win AEW gold. But at least hearing that from him would have been good. I know it got the heat. But
how nice would it have been to actually just get the reason somebody does something?
Yeah.
And not being alluded to, not having to figure it out. And look, I hate this notion that wrestling fans can't read subtext or understand subtext. But sometimes it's okay to just say it. Sometimes it is okay to just say he wasn't willing to do what needed to be done to win, and I need to get where I want to go. That's fine. Just fucking say it. It's a heel turn.
Yeah,
Explain
and Don and the family are people who are willing to do what needs to be done so that we can win gold.
Yeah.
Like you can see with Takeshita.
Exactly.
We did what had to be done, and he beat Will Ospreay.
Yeah. So I'm not like, oh my God, this is awful, but it felt silly to just not get it out there at this point.
Yeah, good for you. You got a little bit of cheapy for the night. And yes, it is good old-fashioned jealousy, and I will include your correction there, so you don't look like you can't spell. But, just a simple explanation of just saying that, and that he, which obviously then implies the jealousy that Will had a title, and he doesn't. It goes a long way. Sometimes, I know it's show, don't tell, but sometimes just fucking tell.
Yeah.
Especially if it's two lines.
Yeah.
And it's not going to make a difference in the long run.
I agree. But it is what it is. I'm Callis's family needed a boost.
Yeah, need a shot in the arm.
I don't know that Archer and Cage are those guys based off of how they're typically booked. I like both of them. I think both of them are amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I imagine that Cage is getting a couple of shots in the arm. So
Damn.
sorry, Brian.
Oh, that was good. That was good. That was good.
I was
By the way,
gonna
Brian,
go to
I
that.
know we're focusing on Archer's hair. Brian Cage had normal people hair, and it made it hard to look at him for a second.
Maybe
His
I was
hair wasn't
distracted by the
way-
title, but I didn't look.
He didn't have the mohawk, and it wasn't really like spiked up in any way. Like he had maybe a little bit of product in the front,
Yeah,
but he looked Producer Boy is pulling it up right now, I think.
yeah. Oh yeah, he just kind of had like a kind of douchey faux hawk type of thing, or like a flip in the front. Yeah, he didn't have the full. Huh, he
It
drew
was
his hair
it
up.
was like looking at Dolph Ziggler when he had brown short hair for like 2 weeks. It doesn't compute. But I'm glad that this group is getting something. So right now we have Archer, Cage, Takeshita, Fletcher. The fact that those two are going to be the tag guys really says something that we're just not going to be getting Mark Davis back for fucking ever.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I forgot what his injury was, but
was
he's
his
been out.
wrist.
His wrist. He's been out for so long.
Please tell me Brian Cage gave an explanation as to why he was just magically now in the Don Callis family. Normally a great question, but JD from NY could go fuck himself.
Yeah. That being said, he didn't. Like I said, I guess Don just signed him. He didn't really explain. Like he wasn't really contracted to anybody anymore, so Don probably just signed him. It's not that complicated. That being said, we just did spend 5 minutes bitching that they didn't tell us anything.
No,
so.
for sure, but the enemy of my enemy, or I fuck you, JD from NY. You know, I don't need to explain it.
Yeah.
If Disco Inferno and I have the same outlook on something, I'm still going to say fuck you, Disco Inferno.
Yeah. Why are we hating on JD lately? Openly? Because he keeps coming up on the show. I don't know why. I know a couple of people have asked questions about him, and we discussed that a couple of weeks ago.
Show a few weeks ago, somebody brought up JDNY in our comments, and
yeah.
I was honest. I was honest.
We were. Yeah, I thought we were pretty fair in our assessment of him.
The dude's just a grifter. He was just absolutely a grifter. But moving on.
You know what? The fakeness is mostly why. Bingo. All right.
Screwing myself out of a job at Hog.
As James said, though, we are moving on. And it was a backstage interview with Mariah May, and she is upset. And she's upset about a lot of things. Like everyone drooling over her at the press conference after Wrestle Dream.
Fuck those guys at the press conference, though. Did you see that?
I did not. I've only seen like the actual pay-per-view. And like I said,
not a single reporter had a single question for Mariah when she showed up at the media scrum.
Wow.
Like, how do you call yourself a professional and not at least be able to come up with something?
Yeah, like you can think of plenty of questions. Like, have you heard from Mina? What do you think about Tony Storr and like tagging with her? And she could probably just kayfabe something away. Like, there's plenty of like in storyline questions and out of storyline questions you can ask.
Absolutely.
It's not that like. What do you think about the fact that you had such a meteoric rise here in the women's division in AEW? You've only been here 8 or 9 months and you're the champ already. Like, not that fucking complicated, guys. But I didn't know that. Wow, that's shocking. Yeah. Because I was going to make the joke saying, like, yeah, I'd probably be drooling over Mariah too. But, like, be professional and then have a fucking question. Anyway, she's upset about that. She's upset about the woman she killed getting a magazine cover in reference to Toni Storm being the top of the women's PWI, and Mina still being in Japan, amongst other things, but she was talking so fast I couldn't really get everything down. But what Mariah is most upset about is that there is no competition for her at the moment. She mentions that Britt Baker is out because she has strep throat, and I hope she feels better. I used to get that once a year. It sucks. I think she said Thunder Rosa's in London, if I heard that correctly.
I don't know why, though.
Me neither. And then she said nobody else wants to step up. She might have threw a third name in there, but again, she was just rolling. So Mariah then questions if this is where the best actually wrestle, because it seems like more where the best are avoiding facing her. And
I actually really like that line.
It did. It was a good line. Yeah. And she questions what the hell Christopher Daniels even does around here. This prompts Anna Jay to come over and get into Mariah's face. Anna, And to be like, I'm here, bitch, let's go. And the two start, jawing at each other, and CD comes over to try to keep them apart. And as he's doing so, Mariah is able to bait Anna into throwing a right hand, but Mariah ducks it, and Anna just ends up bitch slapping CD
right in the ear. It looked like she really got him in the ear.
Why'd you hit me in the ear? That was perfect. Ryan then leaves, and she starts laughing off screen, and Anna is very apologetic towards Daniels and clearly very frustrated about what happened. But all of this was much to the delight of one Nigel McGuinness. As they went back to the commentary table, he was laughing his ass off, saying Daniels finally got what he deserved.
Do you want to see Nigel's unbridled hatred, unbridled ribbing moved over to somebody else now that Bryan's gone? Or would you just rather it when Bryan comes back, it just explodes out of him like a fucking volcano?
I don't know. If it makes sense, yes. Like if it's people he didn't like in Ring of Honor, it would make sense. But like Bryan's the number one guy. Like he's the number one hater, and it makes sense that he hates Bryan. But he made that crack about CD, and I'm sure they had a decent rivalry back in the day. So it makes sense. But I don't want him just picking somebody new.
Okay.
It doesn't really make sense in storyline. He's going to drag down people who are facing the people he doesn't like anyway.
Yeah.
So especially in the main event when Jay White was going up against Christian Cage, he loves Christian and his father of the year, and he's already doing enough admonishing the people facing him anyway. Yeah. So trust me, I know Stokely's hater of the year, but Nigel was a close second. And Nigel was probably hater of the decade in the 2000s. So
yeah.
Times. But yeah, I think this led to Anna getting, I believe, an eliminator match next week or the week after. So we will be seeing Mariah versus Anna very shortly. Let's see. Thunder Rose is saying, thanks for the mention. And yes, I was in England just getting warmed up for collecting championships. When the boss let me off the leash 1 mile on this women's division, be careful what you wish for. Mariah responded, the only championship worth collecting is mine. You know where to find me when you're off that imaginary leash. So it sounds like Thunder's just kind of doing indies over in England. Cool. Yeah. I don't know if she's won a title or not, but at least she's getting some work. After that, we went to commercial and then came back to another backstage interview, this time with Ricochet. Renee asked him about the loss on Saturday in the I can't call it a triple threat match, in the three-way match for the AEW International Championship. And he actually starts off by giving credit where credit is due, saying he hasn't been hit much harder than he was on Saturday by Takeshita. However, he does take umbrage with the fact that Don Callis keeps saying that Takeshita beat him and Will Ospreay in one night, when Takeshita only defeated Will Ospreay and Ricochet wasn't pinned. He actually calls out Takeshita for having lackeys do the work for him, and for the fact that Takeshita has now interfered in 2 AEW International title shots that he's had over the past week. And considering the fact that he hasn't been pinned or submitted in AEW, he is challenging anyone, including Takeshita, hopefully Takeshita, to come out on Collision and see what he's got. So they then later announced this as an open challenge on Saturday. So we'll see who Ricochet ends up facing. And then I'm sure Takeshita will blindside him some way with the title. We then quickly jumped to a different part of backstage where the BCC was continuing their beatdown, but we jump into the comments instead.
I do want to acknowledge, because I actually do agree with Eric here. Not saying much, but this was Ricochet's best promo ever. He is finally able to talk, and he's at least competent. So this is a big win for Ricochet fans everywhere. All the dozens and dozens. But he's kind of a dick, though.
Yeah, he's at least very confident, probably more cocky.
Yeah.
That he's commenting. But he's got a point, though. He did have a point. I do want to say this, because somebody pointed this out about Claudio, and I think it applies to Ricochet, too. They have done a very good job of putting people in positions when they're not good promos, so mostly just do stuff backstage.
Yeah.
Because Claudio was never good at going out to the ring and giving a 10-minute promo. English is not his first language. I'm not even sure it's his second language. So allowing him to just do stuff backstage, only have to say oh so much because he's got Mox and now also Pac with him who can say the majority of what they have to say. It protects him, and it's made him look a lot better on the microphone since he's been in AEW than he ever looked in WWE.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see something similar with Ricochet here, where he's mostly going to be in backstage stuff. It's probably going to be short, probably going to be pre-taped in case he's fucked something up. He could probably just redo it because he's not the strongest on the mic. Now, it does seem like he's getting better, and all credit to him. But this is, I think, the better way for him to be utilized.
Yeah, play to the strengths. I completely agree.
Yeah. Because even the one the other week when he did it live after his match with Ospreay, that was still a pretty good promo, but it was shorter and backstage, and it just allowed him, to say what he had to say and only have to get out a few lines as opposed to going out and doing a 10-minute promo, which we all know he's not very good at.
Yeah.
So props to Tony Khan to understanding his talent and utilizing them to their strengths, similar to Paul Heyman in ECW back in the day.
Yeah.
Again, I'm reading the rewinds. Honestly, dude, for those of you who want to get up to date, but want to learn history and of wrestling and don't want to read a whole bunch of books, shout out again the Price 82 on Reddit. He went through all of the Wrestling Observers starting in the 90s and just kind of wrote summaries of all of them, and they're great. And I've learned a lot, like shit I never even knew. So they're very cool. But all right, let's get back on track here. And as I think we were, the BCC was continuing their brawl / beatdown of everybody backstage near the loading dock. So they were continuing to just kick the shit out of Top Flight and the Dark Order. Rita Shafir was hanging on some sort of equipment and had so many body scissors, which was pretty crazy. What was that, Stone Cold
with a gun?
Yeah, with the gun. Oh, forgot about that. What's with Stone Colds and guns? Those always go over well with him. Anyway, the BCC just kicks the shit out of these two trios, and they eventually decide they've done enough, hop into their pickup, and hightail it out of there with freaking John Silver chasing after them. But yes, the silly cartoon effects will be added to that, and I imagine there's going to make some great endings for Botchamania.
Yes.
The camera then turns to Evil Udo, who cuts a great promo into the camera, screaming that if the BCC wants to threaten their livelihoods and take food off of their table, even specifying taking food off of Alex Reynolds' table, who was already taped up from the step shot earlier, that the Dark Order will fight the BCC on Saturday, Wednesday, in the parking lot, wherever, whenever they want a piece of them. And then Uno shoves the mic, and it leads to a very slick transition to Top Flight.
Yeah.
Great piece of camera work / directing with that one. And Top Flight then begins their promo, calling out the BCC with, I think it was Dante, starting off by saying if they want to take over, they being the BCC, want to take over AEW, they're going to have to go through teams like them who want to make AEW better. And Action Andretti challenges the BCC to a match on Collision. So I don't know if that was made official or not at the end of the night. It got a little chaotic there. But this was a good short segment where the BCC continuing to assert their dominance. But you got two good promos out of teams we haven't really heard speak a lot lately. So, and we got that cool camera transition. So I actually really like this segment.
I did too. I'm a huge Evil Uno mark. I'm a huge Dark Order mark.
Same.
I'm always going to be rooting for them to win something. There is a deep part of me that wants them to win the Trios title off of the BCC so badly, but I also know better. It's not going to happen, especially if they challenge them anytime soon. So that's kind of why I'm happy that Top Flight is getting the first shot. The more shots that they get, the better chances that they'll get to do it. I like that the BCC. I never knew how to classify what the BCC really were in the beginning with Bryan and Mox and
they're
Yuta.
just kind of training partners.
They were guys who just like to fight and they believed in wanting to make things better for the next generation, but that was so vague. Now it's I want to fix this company. No matter what it takes, I'm going to fix this company. And if that means I got to break you all to do it, I'm going to. And I love that. I love that, and I think it's great. I was going to ignore Eric, but here we go. No, they're not going to demask Evil Uno because that would be fucking stupid.
That's his call, and yeah, he doesn't want to do that.
And like, I've seen the guy without a mask. He's not an ugly guy, but that mask is exactly what he needs. And maybe they'll end the Dark Order, sure, maybe with that, but there's no way Uno's demasking. And it would be a shame if they broke up the Dark Order, because realistically, the Beaver Boys are just going to continue to be the Beaver Boys, and you just put Uno on his own then at that point. What's the point?
Yeah, like they just the trio together, and it's the last thing in the company that like is that Brody Lee had a connection to. So
Exactly.
outside the TNT title, obviously, but
Yeah. So
I think they kind of just have to leave them there just because of that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
But yeah.
But hopefully they actually do something with them, but
let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy. But no, I thought this was very well done, and I liked, what is it? Going back to Garcia. Was it part of this? No, that was when they confronted the Elite before. But I'm liking how the landscape is starting to shape up. Gang war is definitely going to be a thing.
Yep. And it's right now, it's the one big gang against a bunch of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And obviously the bigger gang is probably going to win. I do kind of agree. I know it was agreeing with Eric saying that there might disband the Dark Order. But I do think that this could be a soft reboot and just try to change their direction a little bit just so that they have something more to do. And, they've just been the same kind of Dark Order ever since Brody passed, and they've slowly lost members. And now it's just the three of them, and they don't do anything except kind of mostly, last I saw, they were just on the friggin' pre-show. Like
what the fuck is Preston Vance doing?
I'm not entirely sure he's in the company anymore.
He's not part of LFI because we have a new LFI now. And
I'm not sure. I don't know where he is. I have a weird thing. Like, I thought I read, I could be tripping. I thought maybe he went up to that new Canadian promotion D'Amour's running.
I mean, but that's not a company, that's like.
Oh, I thought it was a full-blown company.
Like, he's going to be running this first show that they're doing. Takeshita is defending the international title against Josh Alexander. That's fucking cool.
Yeah,
but it's not its own thing yet. But man, I know he's a Cody guy. I know he's a Cody guy. So I know the chances of him going to WWE are pretty high. But they're just doing fuck all with him right now.
Yeah, I don't know where the hell he is. But in terms of the current members of the Dark Order, they had just been doing dark matches with fucking Colt and Brandon Cutler. Last I saw. So hopefully, whatever this is can catapult them into actually doing something again, because I miss seeing them on TV. Let us get to the main event of the evening. I don't know why I'm saying that. We saw Switchblade Jay White face off against Christian Cage. Guns up. So early in this match, we had Christian distract the referee, and Nick Wayne was able to get a chair out from under the ring, and he placed it on the apron, but he was driven off by the Bang Bang Gang. And this was Juice Robinson and Colton Gunn. I think Austin is sick or something, and that's why he hasn't been able to travel recently. So hopefully he feels better. I didn't notice that. Good point out by Area on Twitter. Anyway, Juice then came over and grabbed the chair off of the apron, and he started slamming it onto the steps, which was a mistake because this drew the attention of referee Bryce Remsburg, saw Juice with the chair, and decided to throw out him and Colton. However, Colton decided he wasn't going to leave empty-handed. He took Nick Wayne, threw him into the barricade, beat him up a little bit, and then him and Juice grabbed him each by a foot and dragged his ass up the ramp.
It was so funny.
And Mother Wayne raced up and attempted to chase them down from behind and that cleared ringside. So yes, that was absolutely hilarious. And a good way of, I thought it was funny where the heels actually got one over and got the faces thrown off of out of ringside. And then the faces were like, nah, you're coming too. I thought it was a good way to get everybody off ringside without the double ref toss. Later in the match, as Christian was setting up for a spear, we had some more distractions as Kip Sabian, who has been a thorn in Christian's side lately, jumped on the apron and distracted Christian, allowing White to recover and then eventually sidestep the spear attempt and get a roll-up, which Christian was able to kick out of. White is then able to hit a massive Uranagi that Cage kicked out of, but when White went for the Blade Runner, Christian was able to counter into the kill switch, and White was able to kick out of that. Now, while that whole sequence was going on, Hangman came down the ramp and jumped up on the apron and attempted to grab Jay White. However, he missed, so he then ducked down to the side of the ring and kind of shimmied underneath a little bit, as we saw Producer Boy put up before. He was kind of hanging on underneath the actual physical ring apron, the cloth part, and no one saw him, at least in the ring, for the rest of the match. Well done by him. Anyway, after a diving headbutt that White was able to kick out of, Christian then set up for another spear, but Kip again jumped up on the apron, and this time it distracted Bryce Remsburg. White was then able to counter the spear attempt and got into position for the Blade Runner, but the distraction of Kip Sabian allowed Hangman to jump back up on the apron and hit the buckshot lariat onto Jay and get back out of the ring before the referee turned around. Christian, who had been pretty beat to shit at this point, crawled on top of the unconscious White, and as the ref turned around, he got down and counted the 1, 2, 3 to give Christian the win. So, James, this I think was the second person Jay White had called out, saying he was one of the two people that had prevented him from getting a shot at the world title. It was Christian who injured White, I believe, a while back. So White unable to get his revenge here, and we have the continuation of the Hangman and Switchblade feud after Switch beat him on Saturday. And we also have the continuation of Sabian and Christian, whatever the hell's going on there. But I think this all culminated in a little bit of a, I don't want to say overbooked match, but it was still a very good one with a lot of interference.
They wanted to protect White, who came back white hot.
Yeah.
Pun intended. And
This.
I get it. I think my issue is I don't need the White Hangman feud to continue. I just really don't. Like, Hangman took the loss, and it's a tough loss coming off of such a big win over Swerve. Thank you, Eric. But he took the loss. He could survive it. I don't need to see Hangman Jay, because now we already are at 50-50 booking because Hangman beat him in the tournament, and now White, and then White beat him at the pay-per-view. So we're getting a third match. Why? Like, it's just going to hurt one of them. Sure, one guy is really going to benefit from it, but you're really going to be hurting the loser there. So I don't know. I don't really get the thought process behind it. I get needing to delay Jay White from going after Moxley because that was the trajectory. He called out. He went after Hangman. He went after Christian, and he made it clear he's going for the crown. In that tweet, he showed the crown, and that would be Moxley. So I get wanting to delay him going after Mox, but I wish there was I would rather see him feud longer with Christian than feud with Hangman. Because Christian could take these losses over and over because he has the contract.
Yeah. Now, granted, I don't want them to do Money in the Bank it where it's like, oh, he's got the contract, he can just continue to lose, because then you just have a guy who loses all the time when the title.
And that I agree too. It's a bad precedent that WWE had set, but you could survive it better. Hangman's in a precarious spot right now, and it's very clear. It feels to me that they're just waiting for Kenny to come back for him. Maybe that's just me, like, with, optimism and like hope, but I feel like it's obvious that Kenny's going to be the one to bring him back from the edge, from the dark side.
Yeah. It's saying let it play out, but then following that up with I just threw up in my mouth after saying that. So because look, I do think that we'll get another good match, obviously.
Yeah, of course. The match they had at the pay-per-view was amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll probably get some good promos out of it too. But I thought Hangman taking the loss on Saturday was okay because he is so frustrated that a loss there would just further his descent into madness.
Yes. Which is
and
what
it makes
did.
sense. Yes.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, and that's that, and then we'll see where Hangman goes from here, and like who his next target is. I did not expect this to continue. It just kind of makes sense.
Feeling. I had a weird feeling because so many people, and I'm not saying that they rebook things to deal with it, but so many people on Twitter were just like, that was it? That was the feud between them? There was like, no, there was nothing to it. In one match and it's over. And I'm like, I'm okay with that, but if enough people are upset about it, that means that's not the thing they're doing. It just isn't.
Yeah, because my thing was more like Jay came back and settled the score, and that was it. Like Hangman, I don't think necessarily considered Jay to be on the side of Swerve or prevented him from getting at Swerve. So I don't understand why Hangman, outside of the fact that Jay is aligned with Juice, who got in his way recently and which set up that match, and then Jay's return, and then Jay coming back to kicking Hangman's ass upon his return. Those were the only slights I felt that Jay gave towards Hangman, whereas Hangman, was a person who kept Jay from getting the title, and now Jay got his win back. So that made much more sense. So I don't know why it's continuing, but we're here now, and I don't know if I necessarily hate it. We'll see. I know you know it. Yeah, I know you know it. Said he threw up in his mouth saying it, but I'm willing to let it play out. I want to see how it goes. Eric saying, Swerve won 14 matches against Page, and it's fine. And I mean, they went back and forth for the most part, and Hangman ended up winning the feud and overall. But
it happened in the lights out match.
Oh well, fine. But
he's still beating him officially.
Hangman won the feud. No, maybe not on paper. Maybe not on paper.
I don't think this is it. I think one day they'll go back to it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But I just think we'll have to see what happens with Switch and Hanger.
Yeah.
Which I'm here for. I'm sure, like I said, we'll get another good match out of it, and we will get some good promos, I think. And I'm excited for that. All right. I guess we could just check the comments really quick before we go. Let's see. Saying Hangman should just be focused on Swerve, in my opinion. And I would disagree just because he focused on Swerve for so long, and now he feels like he's
other things.
Yeah, and he feels like he's accomplished what he's needed to accomplish. He took Swerve out in that cage match.
You could argue that Swerve should be a little focused on Hangman, but in the background. Like, it's something that Swerve is going to want to revisit sometime in the future.
Yeah. And I'm not entirely sure why Eric's bringing this up, because his Twitter says Jay White has won someone else's contract before in previous companies. I mean, if you're trying to suggest that he wins Hangman's contract and he has to join the Bang Bang Gang, I think that would be ridiculous at this point. I can't see why.
Or is he talking about Christian's contract?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
That would be interesting, but I don't see Christian being stupid enough to put that contract up.
Yeah.
Like, they have made Christian out to be very, very smart. And I don't think he'd be dumb enough to do that.
You remember when MJF got tricked into putting his title on the line?
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But I think MJF has been established where if you rile him up enough, he will say something.
Yeah, it worked for him. It worked for him, but
Christian, yeah, we got there, Eric. But yeah, Christian, he's far too level-headed and he's far too sniveling and conniving to end up doing something stupid like that. But on that note, that was Dynamite. So, James, I thought this was a pretty solid episode coming out of Wrestle Dream. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff to reset and, having to put pieces onto a new board almost, it seems like it's in entirety. they were really pushing the idea that this was a new era of AEW, just because they use this phrase a lot, and I understand why. There was an entirely new paradigm within the company, and
a paradigm shift.
Yes, and Excalibur mentioned multiple times that there is currently a dark cloud hanging over AEW, and I can see your retina. But there is a dark cloud hanging over AEW, and while they did try to find some joy and fun in all of the other matches, this Moxley thing is really taking a toll on everybody, and it's really set up how I think the feel of the show is going to be in the coming weeks and maybe months, depending on how violent and brash the BCC gets.
We're in the dark times. We're in the age of the Empire right now, and I have faith that our heroes will be able to overcome. I have faith that a new generation of talent and main eventers will rise up, and it's up to them to take the opportunity. It's up to them. Like, they're being given a huge opportunity right now. Well, I want to talk about it just a quick bit before we go. But if there's anything to appreciate about the finish on Saturday, Bryan sacrificed himself with that ending to ensure that AEW has television booked for the next 4 to 6 months, and that these faces have something to fight for. He's their Phil Coulson. So I'm in. I'm in. I think we're in a good place now to see talent rise. It's up to them to do it.
That is like the third Marvel reference we've made today. B, I did see a little while ago, I think it was Tony Khan, after Moxley first attacked Bryan. The 4 pillars, remember I called it. Yep.
We got it, it. We'll remember.
It's on record. Tony Khan, after Bryan got attacked the first time, said that this was, the Empire Strikes Back part of it. And I thought he just meant that one match.
No, we're in it for a while.
No, this entire segment of Moxley winning and the BCC reigning over AEW. This is Empire Strikes Back. Bad guys have won.
Remember, the time jump between Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi is 1 year. So
yeah,
Han's gonna be a Carbonite for a while.
Yeah, this is going to, but I think it's going to be cool. Like, I'm kind of excited to see the bad guys really ruling AEW, because I feel like we haven't really gotten that. They tried it with EVPs really quick, and that got pulled real quick.
We've had like the Inner Circle as like the bad guy group that was running rampant for a long while. We had Kenny's Super Elite.
Yeah, the Bell Collector.
But it's been a while since the whole company felt like, wow, the bad guys are in charge. Whether I turn left and it's the new Elite, or I turn right and it's the new BCC, it ain't sunshine and roses.
Yeah,
sunshine and flowers.
Yeah, it's dangerous out there. So be careful, kids. Strap up. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how all of this goes. All right, I guess I'm
down for it.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say to Eric's comment. I'm down.
Yeah, Eric, Bryan is going to be the Undertaker at Mania 40 for whoever beats Mox. I think that's basically what Bryan's going to be. He's just going to show up to have a couple matches, or probably have a match. And
commentary spoke about it today too. It's like we will see Bryan again, but not for quite a long time. So it'll be a nice surprise.
Yeah. But I think overall for Dynamite tonight, we had some good, like I said, we had some good stuff, a lot of pieces moving. Shelton Benjamin, I think, was a highlight for me. That match with Leo Rush was just so good, and I'm going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd agree. That was match of the night.
Yeah. And you disagreed with me at first, but I got you to come.
No, I had to think about it. But you're absolutely right. It was.
Yeah, because I thought the matches were okay tonight. I think, if it didn't get,
it was more about the storytelling tonight.
Yes, if it didn't get interrupted, I think the 6-man tag could have been up there as well, because it was definitely leading towards something that could have been really good. It was really just getting going, even though it seemingly looked like it was getting to its end with Orange setting up for that orange punch. But I would be surprised if Matthew kicked out of it, and we kept going, and it led to something bigger. But obviously that got interrupted. But yeah, I think you're right. I think this was more about the storytelling, even though we did get some good showcases for some people, like I said, Shelton Benjamin and Big Bill as well.
Yeah,
I think he was another highlight of the evening.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so before we go, let's just hit the comments one more time to see what we got here. So it's still questioning about Hangman. He's saying if he vindicated himself, wouldn't the beef be over? Why is he still descending? And I think
he's the bad guy now.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's not even about Swerve anymore. It's just like anybody who slights him must die. In his head, anybody who slights him is an ally of Swerve, and Swerve threatened his family. Therefore, they're threatening his family, and they must be taken care of.
I know we're really sticking with the Marvel and Star Wars references tonight, but he's Anakin Skywalker. The dark side is in him now. He can't fight it off. And he's Darth Vader.
He'll bring peace and stability to his new empire.
Your new empire.
Speaking of Disney, apparently it hated Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and he hates Disney. It was the worst of the. Was it the worst?
No,
of the three?
No.
It was better than 2.
Absolutely the worst of the 3.
Yeah, it was good. I really liked it.
Yeah,
the Rocket storyline was good. Heartbreaking with it.
Yeah.
thought one of the better posts Endgame.
Endgame. Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Marvel movies.
I'd agree.
But yeah, I can see what everything they've done since has obviously been of a lesser quality than before. But
that'll be a separate conversation because.
But yeah, that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
not everything, but I think a decent chunk. Yeah, but that will add another 2.5 hours to the show. So on that note, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Mark It Down podcast. We'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. If you like the video here on YouTube or on Twitter or Facebook, wherever you're at, if you like it, it lets us know that you are enjoying what we're doing here on this specific episode. And then if you subscribe, then you can catch all of our episodes here on YouTube. Obviously, we are back here every week for Dynamite. Got the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow for those of you who like TNA. No Gym Pack Zone tomorrow.
I would love for you to take over for me.
I'm going to that game tomorrow.
Oh, so hopefully Nick will take over, but I'll be at New York Comic Con. Sorry, guys.
Yep. Oh, not me, Nick. Other
Nick.
Yeah,
hey, other Nick's been coming in clutch.
Yeah, no, he's been nice having him back around here on the pod. He has taken quite the hiatus.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see him back.
He had that Darius Martin injury time. He's owing us back time now.
Yeah. We've actually been doing a bit more Monday Night Raws recently, so you guys can check those out as well. And we'll cover any major pay-per-views except Crown Jewel because fuck the Saudis. The government.
Not all the people, but
yeah, the government. No, fuck the government.
Yeah.
If you want to check us out on social media, and you're here on YouTube, you can click the links in the description below. For those of you not here on YouTube or listening, maybe on Apple Podcasts,
Who knows?
Who knows? And you want to check us out, you can check us out on Twitter at @markitdown_pod. Instagram is at @markitdownpod. Facebook, you can just search Mark It Down Podcast. It'll come up. And on YouTube, it's youtube.com /markitdown3665. Thank you. It's always great having you here. You add a lot to the show, commenting, and we appreciate it very much. James, anything else before we go?
As somebody commented, we will be releasing an interview this weekend. I'm not sure if it'll be Friday or Saturday. I'm kind of leaning towards Saturday. But we will be releasing an interview with Alex Shelley of the Motor City Machine Guns. So that'll be something fun to look forward to. Please go check it out. It was a fun conversation I had with Shelley. He and his partner Chris Sabin will be debuting on SmackDown this Friday. So it'll be a fun listen. It'll be a fun listen if you're getting to know these stars that have been around wrestling for the last 20 years or so. and are only really, being introduced to a larger audience now. So check us out probably Saturday, maybe Friday, but probably Saturday.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe then so you can get that interview. I've actually watched it because I edited it. It was very good. James did a great job with Alex, and he gave a lot of insight, not even just to WWE, but stuff with AEW and wrestling as a business on the whole. So it was great. It was great stuff out of him. I highly recommend you guys watching it. So for James Asante, producer boy Eric Asante in the background, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everyone. And I think the Mets lost, but let's go Mets.